These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Thom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Thom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Thom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Thom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Thom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Thom.
For our Thom Hartmann Book Club excerpt today, we're reading from Ed Morales' new book, Fantasy Island, Colonialism, Exploitation, and the Betrayal of Puerto Rico. This is from the first chapter. There was never any doubt that the United States wanted Puerto Rico for its own when it began a war with Spain near the turn of the 20th century. Cuba had been in the throes of independence war with Spain, off and on since 1868. And the conflict that began in 1895 seemed ripe for the United States to capitalize on. The sinking of the USS Maine, an American naval ship destroyed by an explosion while moored just outside Havana, fueled American entry into the war. Although there are conflicting theories about the source of the explosion, including the likelihood it was caused by a spontaneous internal fire, William Randolph Hearst's newspaper chain blew up the incident into the perfect catalyst for the United States to enter the conflict. When Theodore Roosevelt entered the fray with his army of Rough Riders, the whole affair came as no surprise to anyone who'd been paying attention to the lust U.S. government leaders and military had long expressed to expand southward and westward. And although the idea of manifest destiny was at the forefront of the political discourse of this period, it's less often observed that the United States' expansionist gaze was saturated with racial language and attitudes, at once desirous of and repelled by Latin America's mestizo mulatto social dynamic. The Haitian Revolution at the end of the 19th century and into the 20th created a U.S. obsession with both Cuba and Puerto Rico because of the potential of a similar black-led revolt on those islands. In 1826, Virginia Senator John Randolph feared that such a revolt would render the southern United States vulnerable to invasion from Cubans in rowboats. For this reason, he objected to the United States participating in the 1826 Panama Congress because American diplomats would have to endure the horror of a U.S. diplomat taking his seat in the Congress, quote, beside the native African, their American descendants, the mixed breeds, the Indians, and the half-breeds, without any offense or scandal at so motley a mixture, end quote. The logic driving this perspective underlined not only the importance of slavery to the emergence of capitalism in the 19th century, but also, as Matthew Karp points out in this vast southern empire, the extent to which slave owners and their elected representatives disproportionately shaped U.S. foreign policy. Going back as far as the Haitian Revolution, fear of a successful slave rebellion in the newly formed United States strongly motivated Southern politicians. As Karp mentions, to that end, Presidents Madison and Monroe, quote, used overwhelming force to destroy black maroon settlements in southern Florida, end quote. Fear of slave rebellions also briefly united the interests of American slaveholders and Cuban elites who wanted independence from Spain, but in the late 19th century, after abolition, Roosevelt's forces fought in conjunction with Afro-Cuban armies against their common Spanish foe. The move to wrest Cuba and Puerto Rico from Spain came just as Spain had finally relented to end slavery as a concession to black rebel Cuban armies that had formed to push for independence. In a further move to placate continued unrest on the island, in November 1897, Spain signed automatic charters for Cuba and Puerto Rico, which gave limited home rule governments to both islands. Puerto Rico would gain full representation in the Cortes, the Spanish parliament, and could veto Spanish commercial treaties unfavorable to them while also retaining the rights to set tariffs on imports and exports. In this way, Puerto Ricans were granted a kind of citizenship that allowed self-government, grafted on what was left of their Spanish subjecthood. Yet on July 25th, 1898, 8 days after the first meeting of the newly formed Puerto Rican Parliament, U.S. troops arrived in the southern port of Guanica and replaced the Spanish flag with the stars and stripes. This date would be remembered over 50 years later when the United States finally followed through on a project to allow Puerto Ricans to have limited autonomy and self-government. But at the time, it was both the end of Teddy Roosevelt's splendid little war and the beginning of the current quandary over what exactly Puerto Rico's new colonial master would do with the island. Although historians agree that there was no pre-existing plan for designating Puerto Rico's status, there was a general belief that Puerto Rico could be incorporated as a U.S. territory and probably.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, happy Friday. TGIF, I hope you're having a great end of the week. It's Anything Goes Friday, whatever you'd like to talk about. I have a few things I'd like to rant about, if I may use my host's privilege to do so, and they may stimulate some thoughts on your part as well. And then we'll get into it, basically. We've got the whole day to talk here, or at least the whole 3 hours. I want to start out with cancel culture. And I'm going to get to why the Republicans are doing this in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what they're doing. For example, in the 3rd Congressional District of Michigan, this is up in the Grand Rapids area, you know, the area that used to be represented by the guy who challenged, who said, you know, yeah, let's go ahead and impeach Trump. And that guy's been replaced by Peter Meyer. Now, I grew up in Michigan. Myers is a big grocery store chain that has become kind of like a Walmart chain across Michigan. In fact, I think they've spread across the Midwest. And Peter Meyer is from the family that owns that, a billionaire family. And he beat in the primary a guy named Tom Norton, 50.2% to 15.8%. Tom Norton got 15% of the vote, lost to Peter Meyer. Peter Meyer is now the Republican congressman from Michigan's 3rd Congressional District. But Tom Norton's the loser. His website, he's still accepting donations. And he is asking, in fact, he's asking for $45.20 because Trump was our 45th president and he was reelected in 2020. Don't you know? Joe Biden didn't actually win the election, according to this guy. So so this guy comes out and he tweets, "The government cannot take my Goya beans, my Mr. Potato Head, my Dr. Seuss books, or my AR-15. Come and take it. This is America. I'll eat my green eggs and ham on Christmas in my pickup truck if I want to. Enough cancel culture." Cancel culture? So, well, and by the way, later in the day, Target, you know, the store chain, the chain store all around the country, they announced that even in states like Texas and Mississippi that have ended mask mandates, they are still going to require people in their stores to wear masks. And so he tweeted, "Boycott Target, cancel Target." But what is this all about? You know, well, first of all, last year, while Donald Trump was still president, the foundation which holds the estate of Dr. Seuss announced that 6 books, and they're all relatively obscure ones that he wrote way back in the day, 5 of them characterizing Asian Americans in ways that are highly stereotypical, I'm not even going to describe it. And one describing African Americans as monkey-like creatures. They're going to pull those books. Now, Fox has been going hysterical about this. Oh my God, this is cancel culture. The government didn't make this choice. The people who own the books made this choice. And they made it while Trump was president. But Fox is still, oh my God, we're hysterical about this. Weirdly enough, Fox will not show those pictures on TV that they say shouldn't be canceled because they're racist pictures. So Fox is saying, oh my God, they're canceling something that shouldn't be canceled, but we can't show it to you. We're going to cancel it. Are you following this? And then Mr. Potato Head. Hasbro, one of the biggest toy companies in the world, years ago added Mrs. Potato Head. In other words, there's you can get female accessories. In fact, they did away with the potato years ago. Now they've got a plastic potato because people were complaining about potatoes getting really grody and their kids wanting to hang on to them. And so now it's all plastic, but it's a plastic potato, and then you put things on it. And you can make it into Mr. Potato Head, or you can make it into Mrs. Potato Head. They've got, all the wig and makeup or not makeup, but, lipstick and stuff like that. And so, hey, we're marketing a product that both boys and girls can use. So let's stop calling it Mr. Potato Head and just call it Potato Head. And you can make it Mr. Potato Head or you can make it Mrs. Potato Head. And that's what they did. They made this decision, again, while Donald Trump was... It was only recently announced, but Joe Biden had nothing to do with it. The Democratic Party had nothing to do with it. The U.S. government had nothing to do with it. This is called free market capitalism. But Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson are literally I don't know if they're literally hyperventilating about it, but it sure looks like they are. Oh my God, cancel culture? You can't have Mr. Potato Head anymore? It's now gender neutral Potato Head? In fact, somebody even edited the Wikipedia page, and maybe it was well-intentioned, I don't know, but they said, he dropped the Mr. Moniker to make it gender neutral. Well, no, it's not like they're saying, we've got a gender-neutral potato head. Or, as Fox News and right-wing hate radio is implying, we've got an LGBTQ potato head. That's not what they're saying. They're saying our potato head is no longer branded as Mr. We're no longer just marketing this to boys. Which brings us to Jennifer Rubin. Jennifer Rubin was a Republican, a conservative. She writes for the Washington Post, has for years. She's an old-line William F. Buckley conservative. By the way, yesterday I said that well, actually, I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a little bit. So anyhow, Jennifer Rubin says in today's Washington Post, the headline, "The MAGA phenomenon has never been about economics." And she points out that Republicans claim to be all about the blue-collar middle class, the working-class guy, the working-class Joe, the people who go to NASCAR. But in fact, the Republicans backed a tax cut for billionaires. They tried to strip health care coverage from tens of millions of Americans. They insisted that frontline workers, including older people who work at Walmart and whatnot, must prioritize the economy over their own health, that being the stock market. In fact, the number two guy in Texas, Dan Patrick, even said, older people should die for the economy. And they're continuing to do this. So she points to this thing. She says the MAGA phenomenon was never about economic dislocation. A 2018 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences concluded that, quote, white Christian and male voters turned to Mr. Trump because they felt their status was at risk. The MAGA Republican Party, she says, has never represented the interests of working and middle-class Americans. Instead, they represent the interests of those motivated by xenophobia, racism, and misogyny, whatever their economic status. Statistically, voting for Trump correlates most closely. The one thing that you can constantly and consistently show among voters who voted for Trump is that the majority of them are white, not African American, is that the majority of them believe that white people, not African Americans, are discriminated against and are watching Fox News. This is from Jennifer Rubin. She points out that among people making less than $100,000 a year, Joe Biden took 57% of the vote in the last election. Donald Trump only got 35% of people making under $50,000 a year. It's basically high-income white people who are essentially racists pushing and voting for Trump. So, cancel culture? No, it's a distraction. They're simply trying to change the subject away from the fact that the Republican Party is all about helping rich people, billionaires, and giant corporations and screwing the middle class, working class people. They don't want you to have a union. They don't want you to have a minimum wage. They don't want you to have health care. They don't want your kids to go to college for free. I mean, and they're pretty upfront about it. I mean, they're filibustering this bill right now. I've got to tell you about the U.S. unemployment rate, too. Maybe I'll save that for the second hour of the program. It's just, you know, there's some amazing new news out of the Fed that kind of blows up these numbers that are all over the news about, hey, the economy's doing great now, isn't it? No. And the unemployment rate is not 6.2%. I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And yesterday I claimed that Proxmire was a Republican, the senator from Wisconsin. He was a Democrat. My apologies and thanks to all the people that corrected me. And welcome back. John in Boise, Idaho. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
It's my turn to rant now. Hey,
Okay.
Nobody's going to take my potato head. I'm trying to figure out if it's male or female or Republican, Democrat, or independent. But that's not what I called about. Anyway, I'm calling about the... I don't believe that we should have sanctions against Russia for putting that activist in prison for 2 years. I believe it's wrong. But I also believe we have a long list of judicial problems in this country. The system is broken. We put people in there, and men and women in there for, decades, 2 or 3 decades. Then they come out with DNA, say, oh, they're innocent. And a lot of them, they knew they were innocent in the first place. They just had to have somebody to put in there. But anyway, I don't think it's right to put sanctions on Russia for doing that, because of what we got going on.
After talking to Richard Wolff yesterday, I'm inclined to agree with you, although I think that there does need to be a response. And I think the sanctions specifically were to the poisoning of Navalny, which happened when Trump was president. Of course, Trump, wants to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, so and God only knows what else. So, he's not going to criticize anything coming out of Russia or a half a dozen other countries, where he has Trump Towers or wants to have Trump Towers, or where there's billionaires that have supported him and his buddies. But I'm not sure that economic sanctions have ever worked. And, we'll see. We'll see. But, John, thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. Ed in Pine Bush, New York. Hey, Ed, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, it's great to finally get through to you. I've got something that will at first strike you as a little off the wall. It's some geeky science that may explain a number of things that you've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, like maybe the psychological profile of a Trump supporter, or the bigger picture.
Okay.
What inspired me to call was your suggestion that we think about the coronavirus and what's happening to us in terms of the big picture, in terms of Gaia and its self-correcting mechanisms.
Right. Well, Ed, let's get right to it, because we just have 1 minute.
Okay. My source of authority on this is a guy named David Suzuki, who has a program called The Nature of Things. And he had a whole program devoted to the parasitic control of our brains. And he goes through...
are you talking about now cryptosporidium?
No, I'm talking about, what's it called?
Okay.
Toxoplasma. Anyway,
Toxoplasma, yeah. The toxoplasma is caused by an organism called cryptosporidium, isn't it?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Or is toxoplasma a separate organism? Yeah, okay.
That term didn't come up. I would have remembered it. But anyway, he runs through like how these microorganisms get into the brains of worms and grasshoppers and fish and so forth, and particularly into rats, to change their behavior and make them actually attracted to the smell of cat urine, so that they will be eaten.
Right.
And anyway, it goes
and then
right
the
up to
cats get
human
them, and
beings.
they can spread them to us.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's very common among human beings. Half of the population is affected by this, and they've done epidemiological studies that show that societies that are more authoritarian and that, where people
Have more cats?
do suicidal things or have more of this, a higher incidence of this.
Okay,
in
we
their
have
brain.
3 cats. I'm starting to worry. Ed, thank you. I'm sorry we hit the time thing there. That was a good one. I appreciate it. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Hey, we just put a new video up for supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com, and it's about what would have happened if back in 1941, when we were attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor, what would have happened if Franklin Roosevelt had said, well, Hawaii didn't vote for me, and it's only 2,404 dead people. I mean, that's not so many, right? What's the big deal? Or what would have happened if my dad, who, joined the Army to go fight in World War II, if my dad had said, well, it's only 2,400 people, and I live in Michigan, and they're way over in Hawaii. They're never going to get to Michigan. That's the poison that is spreading in America right now, that we really need to take on. And so anyhow, that's the essence of this, the new video that we just put up. You can find it over at thomhartmann.com, and I think you'll find it fascinating. Thank you for your support. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, 21 minutes past the hour. My apologies again for having made a mistake yesterday about William Proxmire. I heard from a lot of Wisconsinites. I mean, we're on the air on a couple of radio stations in Wisconsin, and of course, SiriusXM covers the state, and Free Speech TV, and all that sort of thing. But he did the Golden Fleece Award, and I was suggesting that if somebody is upset about Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion package, and I've got a whole rant about that too. I've got such a bunch of stuff to get to today, but I'm going to try and keep it all to the first 15 minutes of each hour so that we can do Anything Goes Friday too, and take phone calls for the rest of the hour. But I had said, if the Republicans are really upset, they should do what William Proxmire did, have a Golden Fleece Award, identify something and say, this is it. And Proxmire was always quite rigorous about that. I mean, the things that he called out, I remember those times, right? The things that he called out were usually pretty abusive, and they typically had to do with military spending, although not always. And somebody needs to revive that, but my argument was that they should do that instead of the filibuster. And I said, and Proxmire was a Republican. That was during the era when there were actually a few progressive Republicans around, or at least sort of middle of the road Republicans. But I was mistaken. In my memory, I thought that he was, but I was wrong. He was a Democrat. And a solid Democrat, not necessarily progressive, but a solid Democrat. So anyhow, 22 minutes past the hour. Let's pick up your phone calls. Ron in Chicago. Hey, Ron.
Yes,
What's on
sir.
your mind?
I want to
It says
rant
here you
about,
want to disagree with me, so you go to the front of the line.
No, I want to rant about the Native American Indians. They want to change the name of Indianapolis, Indiana, because they have the word Indian. Do you want to change the name of the Eskimo pie ice cream?
Eskimo is a slur.
Hey, Tom.
We'll be right back with more of Anything Goes Friday in just a moment. Hey, it's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. We are, on an ongoing basis here. It's Friday, and we could use your help. Free Speech TV could use your help. And by the way, special bonus, whatever you give today will be doubled up to $10,000. A special group of Free Speech TV frontline funders, including Suzanne in Virginia, Ron and Becca in Florida, John and Jean in Oregon, Bill and Jane in North Carolina, Mark in Florida, Pat in Colorado, Brenda in Texas, Steve in Virginia, Mac in Colorado, and June in Oregon in memory of Ed have put up the money, this $10,000 match, so that your gift gets doubled when you call now, 877-378-8669. Call now and your gift will become twice as big. And that's a big deal, right? Today only. So please, call now. Make this happen. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. Hey, you know, the world needs more wildflowers, right? I mean, seriously. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you get a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks. Can't have enough face masks, right? And even you know, now they're saying, hey, you know, with all these variants and things, it's time to double mask. So you put kind of a surgical mask on first, and then you put the Free Speech TV mask over that, and you've double masked, and you are a walking billboard. It's a good thing. With a $120 gift, there you have a choice of 3 different options. One is the Grow Social Change box, which is the wildflower seed pack, the same as, you know, in the $20 gift, plus the windowsill herb garden. Always nice to grow your own herbs, right? Fresh spices and edibles. The new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, and Free Speech TV brand glasses, sunglasses. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Hidden History of American Oligarchy book, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, you can participate in one of our meet and greets, our virtual meet and greets. And we have dates for April and May. And I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me right now, but we do have those dates. Or the $240 book set of my 2 books, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which are kind of 2 sides of one large problem that we have in America. Monopolies is too much economic power concentrated in a small number of hands, and oligarchy is too much political power concentrated in a small number of hands. And so both those books with a $240 gift, both of them autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the wildflower seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and the autographed copy of The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, we have the in-person meet and greet, which we hope to resume this fall. I'm guessing we will. We still haven't gotten our shots here in Oregon, but we're working on it. And so that's where we're going. But all of these things are available when you call 877-378-8669. All those things, help out, please. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you, as they say. And there isn't enough media in the United States like Free Speech TV, which brings me to my final point, which is Free Speech TV needs publicists. And right now, that's not in the budget, but you can be a publicist for Free Speech TV. And wouldn't that be a cool thing? If everybody watching right now, or even if a small percentage of people watching right now, were to start talking about Free Speech TV on social media, start talking about free speech on Twitter, you want to get me to like one of your tweets, plug Free Speech TV, with a specific link that people can follow so that they can learn about Free Speech TV. And if I see those links on Twitter, now I'm not sitting there all the time, but if I see them, I'll like them. So anyhow, call now, help us out, and please participate. Thank you. On the Science Revolution this week, Nick Dearden is here with Global Justice Now. Should America have a people's vaccine? Nick is calling for an immediate suspension of patent guidance on COVID-19 vaccines and an international plan to ramp up production as rapidly as possible. Barry C. Lynn from Open Markets Institute drops by on how monopolies have created a crisis in the food industries. Zach Corrigan is here from Food and Water Justice on how pork slaughter plants with self-inspection rules are not working well and endangering our health. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Coming up in the next couple of hours, the next 2 hours, I just want to share with you some of the things I want to get into. Some fascinating research now on what happened. Amazon raised their base wage to $15 an hour 3 years ago. So did that cause jobs to vanish in rural areas, low-income areas, like Republicans claim raising the minimum wage would do? I'll tell you what happened. The chairman of the Fed is speaking out, saying don't get so happy about 6.2% unemployment like they were celebrating this morning on CNN and MSNBC. He's saying don't. Sean Hannity is going after colleges in the $1.9 trillion COVID rescue package, the American Rescue Package, wrongly. He's misstating the facts and lying about them. Greg Abbott is trying to slur his, I mean, it's just bizarre. And it's not just him, too. Dan Patrick, too, these slurs. And the Republican senators who are opposing an HHS nominee are taking literally millions of dollars from an industry that this guy wants to regulate. I'll tell you all about that in the next hour, in the third hour. But as I said, it's Anything Goes Friday, so let's pick up your phone calls here. Lou in Pueblo, Colorado. Hey, Lou, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, good morning. Great week as usual. It's nice to be kind of bored with politics instead of running from fire to fire. I was going to talk about messaging, but you had asked me, I'm a long hauler with COVID, and you had asked me to call in and update every so often. Well, I've been gradually, it's been about a year, gradually, slowly getting better. I got the vaccine 2.5 days ago, and all these lingering symptoms are just about gone. By Monday, I think I'll have to turn in my long hauler card. So
did the vaccine seem to help with your long haul symptoms?
Absolutely. They just about vanished in 2.5 days.
That's amazing. That's really good news. I hope somebody's doing some research on that one, Lou. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm going to go get a shot every week. But hey,
there you go. So what did you call? You called about something else.
I like to do things that I can do, because if I make plans for you, well, you may not have time, so I'd rather make plans for me. And I'm actually getting a difference doing this. What I've done is two things. One, I don't use the phrase conspiracy theory. I always substitute in writing and speech impossible, conspiracy, fantasy. And people back off right away because they know it's a fantasy, okay? So they won't push another one on you. So
yeah, you wouldn't even have to insert the modifier impossible. You could simply replace the word theory with fantasy. I think that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Conspiracy fantasies. Yes.
Well, that's what I do when I'm talking. I say conspiracy, fantasy. In writing, I'll say impossible. And it's working. People back off. The other thing is, you know, we have this statement, these unnecessary words. If I say angry young man went into the liquor store. Well, that's kind of I'm going to think angry young man, something bad may happen. But I hear angry young black man went into the liquor store. Well, why do you need to say black man? Testosterone poisoning affects you regardless of your skin color. So what I'm doing in talking with people now, I always insert an angry young white man went in here, an angry young man whose race I don't know, because I want to bring up this point of sticking these words in that we automatically connotate that really don't belong there.
Yeah,
So
it's like Dr. Seuss's stuff. Yep.
Well, now Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss, I grew up at the time he was writing his books. You couldn't find anything that wasn't racist at that time.
Oh, so I agree. Disney cartoons were. Look at how the early Mickey Mouse cartoons were portraying black people as essentially minstrels.
Right.
You know, but horrible portrayals of Chinese and Japanese. Of course, this was in the decade, you know, in the 1950s, in the decade after World War II, when we fought a war against Japan. But still, you know, it was racist depictions. Yes, absolutely. And that's why the Suess Foundation, or whatever it's called, you know, this foundation that owns Theodore Geisel's work, that was his real name, as I recall, they're saying, you know, we're going to take those out of print. Well, that's fine. That's their privilege.
Yeah, and it wasn't Biden. No.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No, and it wasn't Democrats, and it wasn't the U.S. government. Lou, I got to move along, but thank you for the call, and I'm so glad to hear that the vaccine actually helped you with your long haul syndrome. That's amazing. Jimmy in Southgate, California. Hey, Jimmy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. Wanted to talk to you about where do progressives go to retire? I started thinking about this in the past week because I had a former co-worker who has been retired for a few years, called me out of the blue last week and was all excited to tell me about how they've moved to Arkansas. And then when she described this paradise in Arkansas, it just kind of gave me the chills. They moved to a town called Bella Vista. I don't know if you know it. The next town over is Bentonville. The hometown and the headquarters for the Walton family and Walmart. Anyway, Bella Vista is a 28,000 population, and it's basically a giant gated community. The city has 7 lakes on it, and they're all private. You have to be a homeowner in the city or a guest to be able to access these lakes. Anyway, it's 98% white. My friend said that it's 80% Republican, and she said that she was just scared of moving. She had to move out of California because she didn't feel safe living in California anymore. So they sold their home, moved to this supposed paradise, and she said that, you know, people were, you know, here in California were being held up with armed robberies, and she was afraid that in the next time a black criminal, her words, a black criminal is shot by a policeman, there'd be a huge riot and she would no longer be safe. And of course, there's...
So Jimmy, what's your point?
The fact that, well, I'm just trying to think, okay, so if these racists are moving to out of California to these enclaves, where do progressives go to? You know, we can't. Yeah. And so, you know, where's a good place for us to, you know, to find our paradise that isn't racist, isn't white supremacist, etc. So.
Yeah. It's interesting that there are communities forming. I mean, it's not surprising. It's this happened in the 50s after the Brown v. Board decision. Happened with, you know, private schools, these all-white private academies that opened up all over the South, and you know, that led to even all-white universities. You know, Bob Jones was probably the most famous example, where he went to court to enforce his all-whiteness, as it were, among other things. So I'm not surprised by that. As far as progressives retiring, I don't see any. You know, I think, you know, progressives represent the majority of Americans. Something like 80% of Americans think that, you know, Social Security and Medicare should be strengthened. Over 70% of Americans think that we should all have a national health care system. Over 70%, well, actually, one study showed as high as 90% of Americans think we should have a higher minimum wage. You know, where you get to 15%, then your support drops down into the 80s. Progressive, we are America. We represent the actual values of this country. We are Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, you know, among others, Hinduism and Buddhism as well. We represent the values of these religions. There was an extraordinary rant this morning, it was this morning on Newsmax, where one of their hosts went off on this thing saying Biden is waging a new war on Christianity. He says, so Joe claims to be a devout Catholic, right? The church disagrees. His support of abortion disqualifies him from being a devout Catholic. Well, my recollection is that in Matthew 25, what Jesus talked about was you can't go with me to heaven unless you feed the hungry, visit those in prison, house the homeless, you clothe the naked, heal the sick. All right, and I don't recall any time in the Bible where Jesus said you can't have abortions. And so it's like, you know, it's just like this strange stuff. These bizarre people who claim to represent Christianity actually are not representing anything that Jesus ever said. And these bizarre people like your friend Jimmy who claim to represent America do not represent the vast majority of Americans in terms of their ideals, their values, their goals, their aspirations. So I think all of America, frankly, is the place where progressives should retire. I think we all need to be in our own communities, you know, wherever they may be, and be doing whatever we can to make them better. There's a great story on Daily Kos today about how Texas, because Texas, you know, young people have moved into Texas, and there's a whole new generation coming up, how a new Texas is fighting with the old Texas, represented by bozos like Greg Abbott. And, you know, Texas, I think, in the next 5 years, I think Texas is going to flip blue. And, you know, I think much of the rest of the country is. Hopefully. Because that's where we're at as a country.
Listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Anyhow, Jimmy, thank you for the call and the provocative question. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Anything Goes Friday. And welcome back. Cliff in Santa Clarita watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Cliff, what's on your mind today?
Real quick, Brother Tom, before I get to my point, I've seen Art Laffer and Stephen Moore telling all their viewers how raising the minimum wage is going to be bad for poor people. These guys are shameless.
Stick around for the next hour.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, the question I have for you, Dom, is Joe Biden playing it too safe? Because what I see happening is, you know, Joe's been trying to be president for decades. He's finally achieved his ultimate goal, and he's playing it too safe. He doesn't want to ruffle too many feathers. He's hesitant to pursue the criminals from this past administration. He's not sanctioning MSB.
Well, hang on just a second, Cliff. Let's take these things one at a time. He doesn't even have a secretary, basically, you know, a head of the Justice Department. I mean, he's lacking. You know, Bill Barr is gone, but all his people are still there, and Biden doesn't have control of the Justice Department yet. There's still a bunch of Trump holdovers there. So you know, go ahead.
I'm just concerned, Tom, because we remember. I mean, I mentioned this to you a few months ago. I said that the Democrats need to take their gloves off and fight like the Republicans do. Stop being Mr. Nice Guys. Remember when President Obama said he wants to look forward and not behind? We all remember that. Are we going to see the same thing play out with Mr. Biden?
I don't know. We're 2 months into it, though, Cliff. And yeah, I want him to go big and go hard. And frankly, he's gone much bigger and much harder. Much more aggressive than Barack Obama did or than Bill Clinton did. And he is taking on the Republicans in a lot of ways. He desperately needs an attorney general. I mean, you've got Merrick Garland, whose nomination now is being held up now by Tom Cotton, is trying to, you know, has put a hold on Merrick Garland. I think they're going to blow past that. But I think, frankly, the Republicans are trying to delay Garland getting into the Department of Justice because they're afraid of what's going to be found there. And I think some of them are afraid that they themselves are going to, you know, it's going to come out that they themselves have been collaborating with these traitors. And wouldn't surprise me if Tom Cotton and Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz were among that bunch. They're starting to go through people's, you know, phone records. They're getting skitsy. They're getting worried. But, you know, with regard to things like blowing up the filibuster, I mean, you know, we talked about this yesterday, although I realized that we had some internet problems and Free Speech TV didn't have our show for the first hour or so. But the problem is, you know, the story I told yesterday is I remember living in Vermont in the early 2000s during the Bush administration when the Senate was 50-50. And Jim Jeffords, who represented Vermont along with Bernie Sanders at the time, along with Patrick Leahy at the time. Bernie was in the House. Jim Jeffords was a Republican. And he was occasionally voting with the Democrats. And the Republicans started really ragging on him, really getting on his case. And so he said, okay, screw it, I'll become a Democrat, or I'll caucus with the Democrats. He became an independent. And that immediately flipped control of the Senate to the Democrats. So, I mean, the danger is that if Democrats rag on Joe Manchin too hard, he might just do the same thing that the governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, did, who was elected as a Democrat and then became a Republican. And Manchin could do the same thing. And then you'd have, hello, Mr. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. So, I think we have to realize that there's some very, very large political fault lines here that Biden's having to navigate. Cliff, thank you for the call. The Hidden History of the Supreme Court tells the story of Nixon and Reagan's committing treason to steal the White House. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Jerry in San Francisco. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm glad that you talked about the Amazon folks trying to organize down in Bessemer, Alabama, I believe. And then from time to time you bring up the folks who are trying to organize with fast food workers. And you and I, being from the same parts of the country growing up there in Michigan, I wondered how people view union organizing. I mean, you and I, I'm sure, have a specific history there. But to just the average person, they say, okay, they're organizing at Amazon. What does that look like? And I just wanted to share a story with you about what it looked like before the UAW. My uncle was born in 1900, so he was working at the Ford, I think it was Rouge plant, before the organization of the UAW. And he told one story where he met this woman who comes out from the midnight shift, 7 o'clock every morning. They talk for a little bit, and then he goes in. And then one morning he didn't see her. And he got concerned because, you could be fired for just being sick back then. And so when he went in, her fingers were on the punch machine that both of them use. He using it from the morning to the afternoon, she using it from midnight to dawn. He goes in there, and the foreman says, clean the fingers off and get ready to go. They were actually had a machine where you put your fingers in these heavy gloves and you move the part, then the part gets flat, and then you move the part back. Well, the automobile production line needed to be sped up. And it almost looked like a I Love Lucy routine with the candies coming down the conveyor belt. So they had to quit using the gloves. So you'd push the piece of metal in, thing would come down with your bare hands, you'd pull it back out before another piece comes down the piece. And she didn't get her fingers out in time. So he had to show up to this grisly situation where he had to pick up her fingers and throw them in the garbage. That's what that's what the auto factories were like. And he told many, many stories, but I thought that was really the most graphic to remind people or even educate people, because it's for most people under 45, I don't think you even know what it was like.
Yeah, no, and it's not, the history is not hidden. I mean, you can easily, from the Ludlow massacre forward, Woody Guthrie's story and all these. I mean, there's a whole collection of remarkable stories. In my next book, The Hidden History of American Healthcare, there's the story of Tommy Douglas, the father of the Medicare for All program in Canada. When he was 7-8 years old, they lived in a second-floor apartment that overlooked kind of the center of this little town in Saskatchewan, as I recall. And there was a union organizing meeting in the street. The union guys, they were guys trying to organize a union against one of the local companies, or within one of the local companies. And the police came out and shot several people dead. Tommy Douglas watched that, and he carried that his whole life. I mean, he talked about that all the time. He was very into unions, and this would have been probably in the 1920s or the 1930s. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right, Jerry. That's a great story, and thank you very much for sharing it with us. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Jerry in Chester, Virginia. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, it looks like you got an army of Jerry's calling you today there, Tom.
It seems.
I don't know if you are aware of this, but the minimum wage was voted on to add it to the COVID-19 relief bill. I mean, were you watching it on C-SPAN too?
This morning, no, I missed that. I knew that Bernie was going to introduce that as an amendment. What happened?
Yeah, looks like we have more traitors in the midst. The final vote was 58 to 42, so looks like 8 Democrats voted against it. Besides, Sinema and Manchin were against it, plus 6 others. And I try to Google who were the other 6. So I don't. But it's it's so disappointing. So disappointing.
Well, what it tells you is that the Democratic Party is not as united as it needs to be if it's going to pass, big progressive legislation. And that means that, we've got a lot of work to do inside our local Democratic parties, showing up at the local Democratic Party, becoming part of it, and building a progressive infrastructure within the Democratic Party so that progressives are put up in primaries and progressives are running in actual elections, so that we can ultimately pass that kind of legislation.
What's going to happen though with the H? I'm afraid, are they going to get rid of the filibuster? Because they're going to have to get rid of the filibuster to pass H.R. 1. So what are they going to do with that?
Yeah.
That's very important.
Well, this was the op-ed that I wrote this morning over at Medium.com, and what I'm suggesting is, Manchin and Sinema have both said that they love the filibuster because it, quote, promotes debate. Well, in fact, the way the filibuster works right now is not anything like the old Jimmy Stewart movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Instead, what you have right now is, if Ted Cruz wants to filibuster a piece of legislation, all he has to do is send an email saying, I object. That's it. He doesn't even have to send the email. He can have his chief of staff send the email. And suddenly, everything grinds to a halt until the Democrats can get together 60 people. If we went back to the filibuster, or not back necessarily, but if we reinvented the filibuster along the lines of Frank Capra's movie, and I think that movie was, 30, whenever it was, 29, it was the late 20s, early 30s. If we reinvented the filibuster like that movie, then what we would say is, okay, Republicans, if you want to filibuster this, you have to have 40 people, 40 of you have to stay on the floor of the House continuously while one of them speaks. And as long as they're speaking, you can't have a vote. But the minute that you've got fewer than 40 people on the floor, or the minute you're all done talking, there will be a vote. And, that's just like, and that satisfies Sinema and Manchin's requirement that the filibuster actually encourage debate, which it doesn't do right now. Right now, it discourages debate. So I'm calling it the Jimmy Stewart filibuster. And I think that, because we're not going to blow it up, right? It's not, as long as Manchin and Sinema are taking this line in the sand of, we like the filibuster, it's not going to go away. And let's reform it. Let's turn it into what most Americans already think it is. How could you object to that, right? We'll be back. Greg Palast is going to be with us in just a minute. Amazing story out of Georgia.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.
the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. We are, on an ongoing basis here. It's Friday, and we could use your help. Free Speech TV could use your help. And by the way, special bonus, whatever you give today will be doubled up to $10,000. A special group of Free Speech TV frontline funders, including Suzanne in Virginia, Ron and Becca in Florida, John and Jean in Oregon, Bill and Jane in North Carolina, Mark in Florida, Pat in Colorado, Brenda in Texas, Steve in Virginia, Mac in Colorado, and June in Oregon in memory of Ed, have put up the money, this $10,000 match, so that your gift gets doubled when you call now, 877-378-8669. Call now and your gift will become twice as big. And that's a big deal, right? Today only. So please, call now. Make this happen. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. Hey, the world needs more wildflowers, right? I mean, seriously. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you get a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks. Can't have enough face masks, right? And even now they're saying, hey, with all these variants and things, it's time to double mask. So you put kind of a surgical mask on first, and then you put the Free Speech TV mask over that, and you've double masked, and you are a walking billboard. It's a good thing. With a $120 gift, there you have a choice of 3 different options. One is the Grow Social Change box, which is the Wildflower Seed Pack, the same as, in the $20 gift, plus the Windowsill Herb Garden. Always nice to grow your own herbs, right? Fresh spices and edibles. The new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, and Free Speech TV brand sunglasses. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Hidden History of American Oligarchy book, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, you can participate in one of our meet and greets, our virtual meet and greets. And we have dates for April and May. And I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me right now, but we do have those dates. Or the $240 book set of my 2 books, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which are kind of 2 sides of one large problem that we have in America. Monopolies is too much economic power concentrated in a small number of hands, and oligarchy is too much political power concentrated in a small number of hands. And so both those books with a $240 gift, both of them autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the wildflower seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and the autographed copy of The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, we have the in-person meet and greet, which we hope to resume this fall. I'm guessing we will. We still haven't gotten our shots here in Oregon, but we're working on it. And so that's where we're going. But all of these things are available when you call 877-378-8669. And while, all of that was kind of a plug for one-time gifts, let me add, one of the most important things that you can do is make a sustaining gift, is to become a member of the Sustainers Circle or the group of people who are really establishing the floor for Free Speech TV, so that Free Speech TV can budget out in advance and know what kind of revenue is coming in. And you just give them your credit card once and tell them how much to take out each month, and they'll do that until you tell them to stop, or for whatever period of time you want to set up. And it's real easy. You just call 877-378-8669, just as if you were making a one-time gift, or even in addition to a one-time gift. And you can say, oh, and by the way, in addition to, sending me the wildflower seed pack, ding my card for an extra X dollars for an extra X months, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, if you are a fan of independent media, if you are a fan of this program, if we're doing a good job here in meeting your needs for information, conversation, all those things, help out, please. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you, as they say. And there isn't enough media in the United States like Free Speech TV, which brings me to my final point, which is Free Speech TV needs publicists. And right now, that's not in the budget, but you can be a publicist for Free Speech TV. And wouldn't that be a cool thing if everybody watching right now, or even if a small percentage of people watching right now, were to start talking about Free Speech TV on social media, start talking about free speech on Twitter? You want to get me to like one of your tweets? Plug Free Speech TV, with a specific link that people can follow so that they can learn about Free Speech TV. And if I see those links on Twitter, now I'm not sitting there all the time, but if I see them, I'll like them. So anyhow, call now, help us out, and please participate. Thank
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So I opened the previous hour with a rant about this whole phony cancel culture hysteria that has replaced any discussion of actual policy on the hard right over on Fox News and every place else. How Hasbro's decision to drop the word Mr. because they're selling male and female, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, a decision obviously made last year during the Trump administration, or for that matter, the decision that the Dr. Suess Foundation, the foundation that controls his work, made last year again to pull 6 books out of print because they have racist images. That somehow that is the evil Biden administration trying to cancel America. Well, it turns out there are some things actually that some states do want to cancel. Greg Palast is on the line with us, our old buddy, the investigative journalist, author of How Trump Stole 2020. GregPalast.com is his website. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast, just like my Twitter handle is Thom_Hartmann. And Craig, welcome back. What are they trying to cancel in Georgia?
Well, Tom, put down that pizza and no one gets hurt. I can't make this up. This week, the Georgia legislature voted, among other things, to make giving out slices of pizza and bottled water to voters in line a felony crime. Now, as you know, there's the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, has been played as a great hero defending our democracy. He says, no, we don't need such a law because he'd already declared that handing out pizza and bottled water to voters in line in Georgia is a go-to-jail felony crime. Look, I can't make it up. But having been in Georgia, and by the way, we went down to investigate, the Greg Palast investigative team, and sure enough, we caught this conspiracy of criminals trying to bribe voters. They're wearing these hats that said Papa John's. I don't know if you're familiar with the Papa John's Pizza Pusher gang, but they're a dangerous crowd, which was trying
Democrats.
to simply give try to give water. And, well, they weren't giving out pizza slices, but calzones, which are kind of pocket pizzas. It's still a crime. And, this is what's going on. And understand, let's also, besides the kind of weird, Orwellian humor of it, the truth is that one of the big problems is that they've been making it so difficult to vote early for voters of color that you end up with these massive lines. When I was in Georgia in this general and the runoff elections, you had in one place line of 11 hours. And it is a crime to give someone standing in line a bottle of water while they're standing there for hours. So they cut off the voting. For example, if you go to GregPalast.com, you'll actually see a film of these criminals, that is, these so-called Papa John's pizza people, handing out water and handing out calzones. And the reason why there was a massive line where I was in Cobb County is that they had 11 polling stations during the general election for early voting. It's a huge county with 500,000 voters. They cut it from 11 stations to 5. All 6 voting stations in Cobb County that were closed were in African-American neighborhoods, and they only left the 5 stations that were in white areas. So, of course, black folk ended up flooding into what is normally the white voting stations, and you ended up with hours and hours of people waiting. And if you dare give them a bottle of water or anything, you could literally get busted. And I saw this. Even journalists were told you can't talk to voters, nothing. It's all – so they make the lines ridiculously long, and then they literally make it painful to even vote. That's just one of the things that they came up with in a vote on Monday, HB 531 they call it. And that's just one of the things. So it does cut early. So, for example, Tom, they're going to cut early voting. They're going to eliminate they're going to have only one Sunday vote for early voting. Now, understand, Sunday voting is when the majority of African Americans in Georgia and Hispanics vote at souls to the polls. You go after church. People don't have cars, so they go in church buses. So they want to cut out the black voting day. They want to say because Trump got crushed in the mail-in balloting in Georgia, and that's how he lost Georgia with Warnock and Ossoff both won their runoffs with the mail-in ballot, and they want to make it basically virtually outlaw the mail-in ballot by saying you have to have an excuse. How about the excuse being I'm an American citizen, I want to vote? That's not an excuse. You have to have an excuse to vote that's verified, and you also have to include, and this will confuse a lot of people, an acceptable ID has to be included with your mail-in ballot, despite the fact that they couldn't prove that one single voter mailed in a ballot that wasn't theirs. There wasn't a single case of identified voter theft, vote identity theft in voting. Not one. Yet they're making the mail-in ballot all but illegal in Georgia. And then, because they make the mail-in ballots illegal, they're going to have, and cutting the early voting, they're going to have lines and lines and lines. So you make it literally painful, saying no water, no food, stand there for 4 hours. This is the only way that the GOP can win back Georgia. Yeah. Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right, Greg. And cancel pizza is not the rallying cry among the Republicans. It's really a tragedy. The good news, I suppose, although there's a bad news piece of this, is that H.R. 1, the For the People Act, that passed the House of Representatives day before yesterday and is now before the Senate, would require states to have enough polling stations that nobody has to stand in line for hours and hours and hours. And, it would standardize this all across the country so that in those states where, particularly in the Deep South, where they have historically made it very difficult to vote in black neighborhoods, that they simply can't do this anymore, which is, of course, why Fox News and right-wing hate radio are just hysterical about this. I'm getting emails from, the old Koch networks, Freedom Works, calling it the Gag Act. They're trying to shut up the billionaires. They're going to have to reveal how much money they're giving and to whom. Oh, my God, it's going to be the end of democracy in America. Antifa is going to come bang on their front door. It's bizarre, but there is a solution to this. And then the bad news to the good news is that the Republicans intend to filibuster the For the People Act, which is a whole nother topic. But are you saying this is going to pass the Georgia legislature, right? This cancel pizza legislation? It did on Monday. It passed the Georgia legislature on a pure party line vote, and of course you have Brian Kemp. Despite the fact that he has been peed upon by the former president, he is still, an ultra right wing. This is the vote suppressor in chief, as Gerald Griggs of the NAACP calls him, and he's going to sign that thing. So this will be law in Georgia. Now, normally, under the old Voting Rights Act formulation, this would be challenged by the federal government. But, we've lost most of the Voting Rights Act Section 5. And this week we also had a very frightening debate about eliminating what is called Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, Tom, which allows you to sue after the fact. The Section 5 allowed you to stop these tricks before there's an election. It's called preclearance. That's gone. But what's still there is that if you do something that clearly has a racial bias to it, that's still Section 2 is still there. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, with the 6 right-wingers, is going to decide whether they're going to rip apart Section 2.
Yeah, it's strange times we're living in here, Greg. Greg Palast, gregpalast.com, the website. Check it out and get on his mailing list. His emails are just spectacular. Greg, thanks a lot for dropping by. It's great talking with you, as always.
Very welcome, Tom. Bye.
Have a great one. 15 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Yep, cancel pizza. Cancel water. You can't stand in line for 11 hours, but you can't have water. It's illegal. And welcome back. Bill in Omak, Washington. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind today? You want to talk about Proxmire?
Yeah, they ripped the scab off an old sore with what you said about Proxmire.
Okay.
I was in graduate school the last 5 years that he was in office. And, he did come down on the military a couple of times. He even came down on the Senate one time. But what he really came down on was basic scientific research. Research that was done simply to learn about what our world is all about. And he wasn't alone, but he certainly was in the vanguard of changing scientific research from learning for the sake of learning to enhance corporate profits. And as I finished up my time in school, we went from being funded by the NSF to being funded by DuPont, being funded by Dow. And what I learned, and it's the reason I got out, was that I was going to be basically on what's called soft money, meaning I would only get paid if I got a grant. And I might get my first grant, but if I didn't give the funder of that grant the information that they wanted, I was going to get put on a list, and they would look at my grant proposals in the future and say, oh, gosh, that looks really good. And if you just had a few more points, we'd fund you, but try again next year. So I left, and a lot of scientists and a lot of really qualified, really talented people got out because that's not how they wanted to live their lives, and that's not what they went into science for. So, Proxmire, Democrat from Wisconsin, did a lot of harm.
I'm sorry to hear that, Bill. I was alive at the time, and I was sort of paying attention to politics, but I wasn't, that granular. I just remember the Golden Fleece Award, which was just a great little mnemonic device. But anyhow, thank you, Bill.
One quick example, if you want. Okay, there was a fellow who was studying bacteria in the Yellowstone geyser systems because being able to survive in that kind of an environment was pretty freaking amazing, and he was studying it simply for the sake of trying to figure out how that bacteria did it. Well, while he was studying it, it was discovered that there was an enzyme system that bacteria contained that led to the development of the PCR technology, which allows you to take a very, very small amount of DNA and replicate it into, tens of thousands of pieces of DNA, which is it actually probably had a lot to do with how we came up with this mRNA vaccine. And it was not done for any commercial benefit. It was done because the guy really wanted to figure out how those bacteria survive. And that's how a lot of science happens. You can't direct it. You go out there, you study stuff, and you discover, wow, look at that cool thing that organism does. And then you discover that it has amazing properties and benefits for people as well. So, Proxmire, not so good.
Yeah, and you said that the research that you guys were doing was originally funded by the National Science Foundation. That's the federal grant money.
Yep.
And that got replaced by these big corporations. What a story! What a story. Bill, thanks for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to us on Progressive Voices, and thanks for telling the story. I mean, this pure science is something that we used to hold really as a high value. And now, outside of stuff that has to do with outer space, not so much, and it's very, very unfortunate. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, place where smart people get their news. Stick around. Hey, my new book is out. The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, Reclaiming Our Democracy from the Ruling Class. Want to know more? The links are all over at thomhartmann.com. Hey, we have a new video up for the supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. I really enjoy doing these separate from what we're doing on the air because sometimes I can say things that would be impolitic or inappropriate to say on the air. Like the name of the website that I'm talking about in this video, and I lay it out and share it with you on the video. It's ratbleepingthecourts.com, and the bleeping, of course, is a word that you just can't say on the air that starts with F. And this website is just outing these judges that Donald Trump and the Federalist Society have been sending through Mitch McConnell's Senate like a friggin' assembly line, and how unqualified they are, how hateful they are, how aggressively they've worked to screw students, to deny. Well, one of them actually said that women who are on birth control pills, that should be reason to fire people. Right? I mean, it's just insane. You can check it out over at thomhartmann.com. Told you I was going to tell you about in the second hour, and let me just jump right into them. First of all, the big news that I caught this morning watching the news programs on television was that the unemployment rate, that employment went up, that the economy gained a little over 100,000 jobs, and that the unemployment rate is down to 6.2%. Which sounds good, right? And in fact, that's how everybody, oh my God, the economy is recovering. And Republicans are now using that as a talking point. In fact, I heard it used 3 times this morning on television, where they were asking people, well, if the economy is recovering, do we really need a $1.9 trillion stimulus? Well, first of all, it's not a stimulus, it's a rescue package, because you've got 18 million people who are currently taking unemployment benefits. You've got another 6 or 7 or 8 million people who can't get unemployment benefits anymore. They've expired on them. They live in states where it's really hard to do. But what people are saying is, well, unemployment rate's only 6.2%. I mean, that's a really good sign, isn't it? Shouldn't we just say, everything's good? Well, not so fast. This is from the Financial Times. This was one of their lead stories day before yesterday. It's by Jared Polity and Taylor Nicole Rogers. And they write, the rapid decline in the U.S. jobless rate has so far exceeded the forecasts of private sector economists. In other words, hey, sounds like it's good news, right? But the headline figure has obscured far less encouraging trends in America's labor market and is now considered an incomplete and unreliable guide to the trajectory of the U.S. recovery. Something I didn't hear on television this morning. They go on to say, published on they're quoting Jay Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. This is a speech he gave just about 3 weeks ago. Quote, published unemployment rates during COVID have dramatically understated the deterioration in the labor market, said Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell during a speech last month, noting that a more realistic unemployment rate right now is closer to 10%. And then, so why is the unemployment rate saying 6.2% when, according to the chairman of the Fed, it should be 10%? Well, it's because people have dropped out of the labor market. And when you're dropped out of the labor market, you no longer are considered unemployed. You're not even counted. You're not counted as employed. You're not counted as unemployed. You're counted as somebody who doesn't want to work, somebody who isn't working, somebody who's a child, somebody who's a spouse, somebody who's, whatever it may be, but, somebody who's just not part of the labor market. They go on to say, since the start of the coronavirus crisis, the U.S. labor force has lost 4.3 million people, 2.5 million of them women. Chairman Powell, again, Jay Powell, the fear of the virus and the disappearance of employment opportunities is the primary cause of the exodus from the labor force. He says older workers are retiring early because they don't want to be exposed to the pandemic. Younger employees are waiting for brighter times in the hope that their skills do not erode in the meantime. So, number one, it ain't as good as everybody says. Number two, now, 3 years ago, Amazon raised their minimum wage, their starting wage, to $15 an hour. And they have places, you know, they've got facilities in very low-wage areas. This is over in the New York Times today by Ben Castleman and Jay Tankersley. When Amazon raises its minimum wage, local companies follow suit, and they do. Amazon has embarked on an advertising blitz this winter about raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, they note. In the areas where Amazon operates, low-wage workers at other businesses have also seen significant wage growth since 2018, which is when Amazon raised their minimum wage to $15. The gains are a direct result of Amazon's corporate decision to increase starting pay to $15 an hour 3 years ago. So, question, did that cause a loss of jobs, like the Republicans tell us? If you raise the minimum wage, jobs go away? Quote, this is from today's New York Times, there is little evidence that raising the minimum wage would lead to significant job loss, even in low-cost rural areas. And then they go to this actual study, this latest study from Brandeis University and UC Berkeley. They studied Amazon, Walmart, and Target, all three companies that pay $15 an hour. And what they found was that wage increases by large corporate employers appear to drive up wages without driving down employment. They call this ripple effects. Well, of course, it's going to drive up wages and employment because people have more money to spend, so they're going to stimulate the local economy with their spending. They go on to say, in the 1980s, the spread of Walmart and other national retailers helped push down wages as they displaced smaller, often unionized local chains. And of course, they put out of business a lot of small family-owned businesses where, you know, if you know the people you work with, it's really tough to screw them, right? But and they go on to say, now big national retailers seem to be helping push wages up. And then they go on to note, no Republican senator supports a $15 bill, the $15 an hour bill that Amazon, the guys who are fighting unionization down in Alabama, Amazon supports a $15 an hour minimum wage. It's amazing. And here's the proof, right? 3 years, a full 3 years that we can study with three different companies in dozens of communities all across the country where they raise their wages from $7, $8, $9 an hour up to $15 an hour. And not only did it not cost jobs, but it caused all the other wages in the local areas to go up, which is what we used to call the union effect. You know, when 10, 20, 30% of the workforce was unionized, you had an equivalent amount of other companies that raised their wages just to compete with the unions.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So, you know, that's what's up. We'll be back with your calls on Anything Goes Friday in just a minute. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Our book today in the Hey, it's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. We are, you know, on an ongoing basis here. It's Friday, and we could use your help. Free Speech TV could use your help. And by the way, special bonus, whatever you give today will be doubled up to $10,000. A special group of Free Speech TV frontline funders, including Suzanne in Virginia, Ron and Becca in Florida, John and Jean in Oregon, Bill and Jane in North Carolina, Mark in Florida, Pat in Colorado, Brenda in Texas, Steve in Virginia, Mac in Colorado, and June in Oregon in memory of Ed, have put up the money, this $10,000 match, so that your gift gets doubled when you call now, 877-378-8669. Call now and your gift will become twice as big. And that's a big deal, right? Today only. So please, call now. Make this happen. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. Hey, you know, the world needs more wildflowers, right? I mean, seriously. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, You get a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks. Can't have enough face masks, right? And even you know, now they're saying, hey, you know, with all these variants and things, it's time to double mask. So you put kind of a surgical mask on first, and then you put the Free Speech TV mask over that, and you've double masked, and you are a walking billboard. It's a good thing. With a $120 gift, there you have a choice of 3 different options. One is the Grow Social Change box, which is the wildflower seed pack, the same as, you know, in the $20 gift, plus the windowsill herb garden. Always nice to grow your own herbs, right? Fresh spices and edibles. The new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, and Free Speech TV brand glasses, sunglasses. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Hidden History of American Oligarchy book, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, you can participate in one of our meet and greets, our virtual meet and greets. And we have dates for April and May. And I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me right now, but we do have those dates. Or the $240 book set of my 2 books, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which are kind of 2 sides of one large problem that we have in America. Monopolies is too much economic power concentrated in a small number of hands, and oligarchy is too much political power concentrated in a small number of hands. And so both those books with a $240 gift, both of them autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the wildflower seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and the autographed copy of The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, we have the in-person meet and greet, which we hope to resume this fall. I'm guessing we will. We still haven't gotten our shots here in Oregon, but we're working on it. And so that's where we're going. But all of these things are available when you call 877-378-8669. And while, you know, all of that was kind of a plug for one-time gifts, let me add, one of the most important things that you can do is make a sustaining gift, is to become a member of the Sustainers Circle, or the group of people who are really establishing the floor for Free Speech TV, so that Free Speech TV can budget out in advance and know what kind of revenue is coming in. And you just give them your credit card once and tell them how much to take out each month, and they'll do that until you tell them to stop, or for whatever period of time you want to set up. And it's real easy. You just call 877-378-8669, just as if you were making a one-time gift, or even in addition to a one-time gift. And you can say, oh, and by the way, in addition to you know, sending me the wildflower seed pack, you know, ding my card for an extra X dollars for an extra X months, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, if you are a fan of independent media, if you are a fan of this program, if we're doing a good job here in meeting your needs for information, conversation, all those things, help out, please. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you, as they say. And there isn't enough media in the United States like Free Speech TV, which brings me to my final point, which is Free Speech TV needs publicists. And right now, that's not in the budget, but you can be a publicist for Free Speech TV. And wouldn't that be a cool thing? If everybody watching right now, or even if a small percentage of people watching right now, were to start talking about Free Speech TV on social media, start talking about free speech on Twitter, you want to get me to like one of your tweets, plug Free Speech TV, you know, with a specific link that people can follow so that they can learn about Free Speech TV. And if I see those links on Twitter, now I'm not sitting there all the time, but if I see them, I'll like them. So anyhow, call now, help us out, and please participate. Thanks. The history of the war on voting tells how the GOP has been stealing elections for decades and will again this year unless we stop them.
So in our latest video for supporters of our program over at ThomHartmann.com, you'll find a riff about a fellow named Errol Graham. He's a 57-year-old African
English individual who starved to death recently in the United Kingdom. The neoliberal Thatcher policies are apparently echoing through the British system now in a rather substantial way, the same way that Reaganomics is echoing through the American system, and we've got tens of thousands of Americans who die every year because they lack health care or they can't afford copays and things. And we have literally millions of children in America who are malnourished or even go to bed hungry every night. It's pretty breathtaking stuff, and I think you'll find the rant particularly interesting or useful, and hope you can share it with your friends when you pick it up. It's over at thomhartmann.com. Thanks again for supporting our program. So welcome back to Anything Goes Friday. By the way, I have the vote on the $15 minimum wage. I just pointed out to you that, you know, good, solid, 3-year-long science shows that raising wages to $15 regardless, you know, whether it's downtown San Francisco or whether it's rural Arkansas, it doesn't matter. What it does is it raises wages in other low-wage businesses nearby because now they have to compete with a higher wage employer. And it doesn't lead to job losses. Instead, it revives local economies. It stimulates local economies. So the science is solid on this. The senators who voted against a $15 minimum wage this morning, it was actually a procedural vote, so they weren't literally voting against the wage. They were voting against the process of including the minimum wage in this $1.9 trillion American disaster relief bill. The senators who voted no were Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, John Tester of Montana, Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, Chris Coons of Delaware, Tom Carper of Delaware. Delaware, keep in mind, is where half of the Fortune 500 company, half of all the companies listed on the Dow are headquartered. And Angus King, the independent from Maine. And of course, every single Republican, including, we thought maybe Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski of Alaska might vote for this. No. So the vote was 58 no, 42 yes for a $15 minimum wage. The Senate is not yet ready to help you out if you are working full-time and living in poverty. I'm sorry to tell you. But, you know, step by step. At least we got 48 votes. Or excuse me, it wasn't 48 votes. It was 42 votes, yeah. 58 no. But at least we got, 42 votes. I think, a year or two ago, Democrats wouldn't have even been able to pull together 30 votes for raising the minimum wage. So, step by step. Anyhow, as I said, Anything Goes Friday. Let's pick up your phone calls here. Mario in San Diego. Hey, Mario, what's up?
Hey, Tom. First time caller. Just want to briefly say that talking about COVID and depression in kids and suicidal thoughts, it's getting close to home. My son right now, it's been a year. It's been very, very hard on him. It's been pretty hard. And yesterday and today I had a pretty deep conversation about his thoughts and how he has got no hope and just sees it in such a negative way. And he does blame COVID. It's taken a lot away from him, school, friends. And we've taken COVID pretty serious because we have 2 family members that did pass away. And I quite don't know how to talk to him and reach to him because I can see he's pretty depressed, hit him hard. Yeah. And I like maybe you can give some answers and some kind of way for parents to communicate to their kids. We're all busy, we don't have time, and we kind of just don't think about children and the kids and how they see this whole epidemic in their point of view. And I'll take my answer off there. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Mario, thank you for the call. One of the things that is a relatively consistent feature among people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts or despair in general is that when you ask them what they, if they can imagine themselves a year from now or 2 years from now, if you ask the average person that question, they'll typically kind of look up a little bit, and they're actually looking into their imagination of the future, and they're seeing themselves in the future doing something. And people who are really good at setting goals and achieving those goals are really consistent at this. They will have you can even say, where do you see yourself? And they can point to a spot and say, there I am, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm wearing. And they've got a very fully formed, kind of holistic image of themselves in the future, being successful or being happy or accomplishing their goals. And when you ask people who are suicidal or in despair, please describe to me yourself a year from now, they will not do that. They will look down, they'll look to the sides, looking down indicating they're kind of dumping into their feelings. They'll look to the sides as if they're trying to have a conversation with themselves about it. Sometimes they'll look up and just kind of flail around. They'll say, I can't see that. And I'm not trying to offer you any specific therapeutic advice, Mario. I'm not licensed to do that. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to do that. But this is a general principle. I'm pretty sure I wrote about this in my book, Walking Your Blues Away. And I also wrote about it in one of my books on ADHD. Actually, there's a whole chapter about this in, I'd have to go back and, it got retitled. It was originally called Healing ADD. And it's got a new title, but it just came out a year or two ago. But it's called Timeline Therapy. And so the way that you work through that, or one way that a person could work through that, is to help people construct a future. What would you like your future to look like? What are the things that really animate you? What are the things that get you excited? How can you imagine bringing those things into your future and accomplishing those things in your future? And typically you'll get some opposition to that. People don't want to give up their current state. It's hard to change states. But it is possible. There are a lot of good therapists. Cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of a subset of the sort of thing that I'm talking about. And most psychologists today are real familiar with that, but there's a lot of them out there. There's good therapists who could help. So Mario, I hope that that's a starting point for you. But do not mess around with this. Kids committing suicide is a real thing, and it has gotten worse as a result of the COVID epidemic or pandemic, and not just kids. I mean, people are experiencing despair, and to get past despair, we have to be able to imagine a future. Does any of that make sense to you, Mario?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Check it out, and I think that. Well, I hope, I wish you the very best. It's really tough. I mean, just, worrying about our children is just the most difficult part of being a parent. Rodney in Madison, Wisconsin. Hey, Rodney, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how are you? Anything Goes Friday. I was wondering if you have followed any of the Brexit drama over the last year or so, and what your thoughts are on the parallels with what they're going through and what we've experienced. They're a little behind on it from our state right now.
What on did you say on Brexit?
Yeah, I don't know if you followed any of it over there, but I've been doing a deep dive on some of it over the last couple months online, watching some of the older, podcasts and what, and they've got some really good talk shows over there. But the parallels are just really, really scary and chilling. The motivation.
Well, Cambridge Analytica was the British-based company that basically ran the Trump campaign's Facebook strategy, which is what they credit with his 2016 victory, and they also ran the Brexit strategy. And in addition to this, you had a large number of foreign actors. The Russian trolls have been, well identified by the U.S. government, the Mueller report and whatnot, who were engaging themselves in the Brexit stuff in the UK and in the pro-Trump stuff in the United States. But there were also foreign actors from other countries that were also encouraging Brits to say, no, we hate the European Union. Countries that don't like the EU, right, or see the EU as competition, and who don't like democracy in America, and they want to turn America into an authoritarian state. You can basically, there's two capitalist models out there outside of regulated capitalism that we've historically had here in the United States. And that is communist capitalism, which is being practiced in China and Vietnam right now, and very successfully, by the way, in terms of an economy. What the downside is, it destroys democracy and free speech and personal liberty. And gangster capitalism, which is what they practice in Turkey, what they practice in Russia, what they practice in Hungary, which is where basically the oligarchs run the capitalist system and run the government. And the countries that are big fans of, well, that's what the Republican Party has chosen. The Democratic Party is all in on regulated capitalism. The Republican Party is all in on gangster capitalism, or oligarchy, you could call it. And that's been on the world stage, everybody, we used to have this communist versus capitalist. It's not the U.S. versus the Soviet Union anymore. It's U.S. regulated capitalism or European regulated capitalism versus Russian gangster capitalism or Chinese communist capitalism. And these three systems are actually competing on the world stage for domination. Rodney, thank you for the call. And I'm very concerned about how the Republican Party has been embracing gangster capitalism.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Friday. Stick around. And welcome back. Maverick in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Maverick, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, Tom and everyone. Man, I love when you have Greg Palast on your show. It's always really compelling.
He's a performer.
Compelling part of the program. And, man, that little bit that he had about not having the pizza, I was trying to think, there's a pizza joke in there, like what's a Georgia voter pizza? You can order it any way you like. You just can't have it. I don't know. Somebody else will probably come up with a better one. But the reason I was calling, Tom, on Anything Goes Friday is this whole Texas and Mississippi thing. I got a big concern about this, and I mean a global impact concern about this. And here it is. So we all know that the more this virus is out there, the more likely it is to mutate. Right, so if Texas and Mississippi become epicenters for propagating this virus, and thereby we get a mutation, it's very likely that could be the next Wuhan and set us back for another 2 years while we have to go through this whole thing over again. So what I want to say to people from Texas and Mississippi, and I know there's people out there listening from those states, is, look, there may not be a law in Texas or Mississippi that says you can't go into a public restroom and lick the floor, but you know that it's not the right thing to do. So let's apply a little common sense here. Maybe it's not against the law to go into a business and not wear a mask, but think about it. Common sense. You could be actually saving humanity. It could be any single person. A little bit of effort and a little bit of science can go a long way. And faith never saved anything, but science and conversation have. And that's my rant, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me on.
Well, it's a good one, Maverick, and you're following on Anthony Fauci. I don't know if you caught his press conference this morning, but he was pointing out that COVID is an RNA virus, which are more simple forms of viruses than the DNA viruses, apparently. I'm not a virologist, but he said that they're not good at, I forget the phrase, proofreading was the phrase he used. He said they're not good at proofreading. In other words, when they replicate, they have a lot of errors in the replication, which means that a lot of the times when they replicate, they produce viruses that are, incapable of surviving. But it also means that they, lots and lots of mutations, but it also means that they can produce really, really pathogenic mutations. So the more viruses you have, the more infected people you have, the worse it is for the probability of creating the next virus that might be 10 times more lethal or 20 times more contagious. So, not a good thing. And to your point, Maverick, about Texas and Mississippi, Texas had a 6% increase in COVID cases the week before Greg Abbott said, hey, no more masks. Mississippi had a 22%, if I'm remembering correct. It might have been 23%. It was over 20% increase over the previous week. Probably a lot of this, by the way, goes back to the cold weather and people, getting together in tight quarters to retain heat. That's where we're at. So you're absolutely right, Maverick. And this is a serious, serious issue. America has more COVID cases than any country in the world. More than any country in the world. I mean, we're pushing 40 million COVID cases. We have more deaths than any other country in the world, per capita and in absolute numbers. 500,000 deaths. Thanks to Donald Trump and the incompetence of the Republican Party. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. We have a new video over at thomhartmann.com for the people who support our program, and it's an interesting one. The phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, has a really interesting history. And the exploitation of that phrase and that history by right-wingers in 20th century America, or late 20th century America, now 21st century America, also has a fascinating and rather grim history. Just the general absurdity of the idea that somebody can lift themselves off the ground by reaching down and pulling on a strap on their boots. Just think about it for a second. But this is used as justification by right-wingers, particularly over the last 40 years since the Reagan Revolution, to say, poor people, their poverty is their own fault. Check it out. It's over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. 51 minutes past the hour. Bobby in La Puente, California. Hey, Bobby, what's up?
Hey, Tom, awesome show. And real quick, Eskimo, the meaning of Eskimo, people who eat raw meat. So there you go.
Thank you.
Anyway, the topic, my mind spins around because every topic I relate. So it ended up on Mario called It Touched My Heart. Where he's at. I've been there. I've had brothers suicidal, older, not sons, but still the thumping of the heart. And like you suggested, therapy, and like in my case, I would call people, and share what's going on with me. Yesterday at a smoke shop, two young men, talking to one another about anxiety, depression. So what I suggested, okay, one of the young men, give my phone number. Here you go, little brother. Whenever you're feeling anxious, panicking, because I've been there, give me a call. In the meantime, I'll suggest something, kava, valerian, because I used it. And psychiatrists, be cautious, because they pill pushers, and that's all I can do. And Mario,
yeah, there's a difference between psychiatrists who are MDs who write prescriptions mostly, and psychologists and psychotherapists who can't write prescriptions but do therapy. And I'm recommending the latter, not the former. Not that I'm opposed to psychiatrists, but for this, and valerian, by the way, is that's developed benzodiazepine, Valium. They were trying to replicate valerian. It's a root. It smells like old sweat socks.
Right on.
But it does kind of make you feel a little more relaxed and a little less worried. And kava, contains not just caffeine, but it also contains, I'm forgetting the name of it now. It's been 50 years since I studied herbology. But it contains another amine. Anyhow, go back to you, Bobby.
No, that's all I can do is, if I can help somebody. I had a Vietnam friend of mine, PTS episode, 3 a.m. He'd been up 3 days, so was I. So I just listen. Sometimes my medic brain goes and goes. He said, Bob, I think I'll go to sleep. Oh, I bored you to sleep, huh? I guess it works. And I'll do that with anybody because people have been there for me.
Okay.
And really, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. That's what it's all about, is being there for each other. That's the bottom line of the golden rule. Bobby, thank you. Stephen in Kula, Hawaii. Hey, Stephen, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I just had a book question for you. I've read all the Hidden History series so far and a lot of your other books. But when I want to get the book, I order it from the bookstore because they never have it in the bookstore, which is fine for me. But it seems like you wind up preaching to the choir, and the people who don't know Thom Hartmann, who are just browsing bookstores, which I like to do too, never get to see your book. So I was just wondering, how do books wind up in the bookstore? Is it the owners or managers, or do the publishers just send them what they want? How does that work?
It depends on the bookstore. If it's a smaller independent bookstore, then it's up to the owner and manager. They get catalogs typically twice a year, the spring and fall, from all the big publishers, and they pick out which books that they want to order, or they'll get them from the wholesalers, who are the intermediaries between the publishers and the bookstores. The big chains, on the other hand, they do all that internally. And they do it based on sales and popularity. And there's literally millions of books in print, and there's only so many books that a bookstore can hold. So some bookstores will choose to only carry the more popular titles. But most bookstores, even small bookstores, typically if people regularly come in and ask for titles by a particular author, they will start to stock titles by that author. And particularly if people ask them to start stocking them or suggest to them to start stocking them, they will start doing that. So, Stephen, thank you for buying through your local bookstore. My books and anybody else's books. You're not just supporting, the author and the publisher. You're also supporting the bookstore, and those are all good things. But that's how it works, Stephen. Thank you for the call, Debbie in Woodbridge, Virginia. Hey, Debbie, what's up?
Hi. I just wanted to get your opinion on the, the Dr. Seuss and there's a kind of a double standard, I'm thinking, in that the people that are in uproar about those 6 books are fine with banning or moving LGBTQ children's books, like, to the adult section, or not letting the teachers read
Correct.
them. The example is, and Tango Makes 3. I mean, it's, about the penguin.
You're absolutely right.
Central Park.
Yeah, or banning music with lyrics that they don't like. They're usually on a Jeremiad about rap and things like that. Yeah. Their cancel culture, Debbie, is very selective. Their hysteria is very selective.
Okay, yeah.
So
it is the same thing. I've been kind of like replying to, when I see something about Dr. Seuss on Facebook, I've been replying with well, what about these books in this? So, okay. So
right.
It's a double standard.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, it wasn't the government that decided to take those 6 books out of print. It was the Dr. Seuss Foundation and or Enterprise or whatever it's called. And they took them out of print because there's racist caricatures in them, and they didn't want to be associated with that. And they're so racist that Fox News won't even show them while they're hyperventilating about the fact that you can't buy them. It's crazy. Debbie, thank you for the call. Spot on. We'll be back with the last hour of Anything Goes Friday right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.
We say fight back!
Hey, it's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. We are, on an ongoing basis here. It's Friday, and we could use your help. Free Speech TV could use your help. And by the way, special bonus, whatever you give today will be doubled up to $10,000. A special group of Free Speech TV frontline funders, including Suzanne in Virginia, Ron and Becca in Florida, John and Jean in Oregon, Bill and Jane in North Carolina, Mark in Florida, Pat in Colorado, Brenda in Texas, Steve in Virginia, Mac in Colorado, and June in Oregon in memory of Ed have put up the money, this $10,000 match, so that your gift gets doubled when you call now, 877-378-8669. Call now and your gift will become twice as big. And that's a big deal, right? Today only. So please, call now. Make this happen. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. Hey, the world needs more wildflowers, right? I mean, seriously. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you get a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks. Can't have enough face masks, right? And even now they're saying, hey, with all these variants and things, it's time to double mask. So you put kind of a surgical mask on first, and then you put the Free Speech TV mask over that, and you've double masked, and you are a walking billboard. It's a good thing. With a $120 gift, there you have a choice of 3 different options. One is the Grow Social Change box, which is the Wildflower Seed Pack, the same as, in the $20 gift, plus the Windowsill Herb Garden. Always nice to grow your own herbs, right? Fresh spices and edibles. The new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, and Free Speech TV brand sunglasses. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Hidden History of American Oligarchy book, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, you can participate in one of our meet and greets, our virtual meet and greets. And we have dates for April and May. And I'm sorry I don't have them in front of me right now, but we do have those dates. Or the $240 book set of my 2 books, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which are kind of 2 sides of one large problem that we have in America. Monopolies is too much economic power concentrated in a small number of hands, and oligarchy is too much political power concentrated in a small number of hands. And so both those books with a $240 gift, both of them autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the wildflower seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and the autographed copy of The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, we have the in-person meet and greet, which we hope to resume this fall. I'm guessing we will. We still haven't gotten our shots here in Oregon, but we're working on it. And so that's where we're going. But all of these things are available when you call 877-378-8669. And while, all of that was kind of a plug for one-time gifts, let me add, one of the most important things that you can do is make a sustaining gift, is to become a member of the Sustainers Circle or the group of people who are really establishing the floor for Free Speech TV, so that Free Speech TV can budget out in advance and know what kind of revenue is coming in. And you just give them your credit card once and tell them how much to take out each month, and they'll do that until you tell them to stop, or for whatever period of time you want to set up. And it's real easy. You just call 877-378-8669, just as if you were making a one-time gift, or even in addition to a one-time gift. And you can say, oh, and by the way, in addition to, sending me the wildflower seed pack, ding my card for an extra X dollars for an extra X months, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, if you are a fan of independent media, if you are a fan of this program, if we're doing a good job here in meeting your needs for information, conversation, all those things, help out, please. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you, as they say. And there isn't enough media in the United States like Free Speech TV, which brings me to my final point, which is Free Speech TV needs publicists. And right now, that's not in the budget, but you can be a publicist for Free Speech TV. And wouldn't that be a cool thing? If everybody watching right now, or even if a small percentage of people watching right now, were to start talking about Free Speech TV on social media, start talking about free speech on Twitter, you want to get me to like one of your tweets, plug Free Speech TV, with a specific link that people can follow so that they can learn about Free Speech TV. And if I see those links on Twitter, now I'm not sitting there all the time, but if I see them, I'll like them. So anyhow, call now, help us out, and please participate. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Friday, I'll be picking up your calls in just a moment, but I just wanted to share a couple things with you. The first member of the Trump administration has been charged by the Justice Department with criminal activity on January 6th. This guy had a top secret clearance. He worked in the State Department. Over in the State Department, he worked in the area that deals with FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests. His name is Klein, Frederico Klein. He calls himself Freddie Klein. He is seen in the videos of the riot assaulting officers, police officers, with a stolen riot shield. And at another point, he's yelling toward the back, we need fresh people here, and trying to get more people up there. He can be seen in the video footage and other images dressed in a red Make America Great Again hat as he's attacking the police. The first, and this is a guy who worked in the Trump administration and had a top secret security clearance, and was just arrested. Amazing. Meanwhile, over on Fox So-Called News, Sean Hannity is got this. You can find this over at MediaMatters.org, by the way. Sean Hannity is going off on the $40 billion for higher education that's in this $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, the American Relief Package. And he's saying, these colleges are doing just fine. They're just still collecting tuition, and and implying that they don't even have all the expenses, right? Well, in fact, the Chronicle of Higher Education estimates that the financial hit on universities, both public and private, is, quote, $85 billion in lost revenue, $24 billion for COVID-related expenses, and $74 billion in anticipated future decreases in state funding. That adds up to a whopping $183 billion a year. And we're going to make them whole with $40 billion in the $1.9 trillion bill, but for Hannity, that's still too much, right? Because it's going to colleges. I mean, colleges are where people get educated. Educated people turn into liberals. Can't have that, can you? Hannity also claimed, this is, again, from Media Matters, that the proposed $350 billion in aid to state and local governments would, quote, be a bailout for blue high-tax states, blue states with massive budget deficits, states to tax their residents into oblivion, and which are allegedly now looking for a handout from red states. Well, this is what Forbes magazine documented. Of those states suffering at least a 3% drop in revenue since the start of the pandemic in March 2020, 2/3, 8 of 12, are red states. The most dire examples, Florida and Texas, with revenue declines of 9% or more compared to 2019. There is a bridge in this bill. Hannity says we're putting $1.5 billion towards it. No, it's actually $1.5 million, which is like chump change. Now, why is that going to the bridge? Well, it's going to the Seaway International Bridge, which connects the United States with Canada in upstate New York. That bridge is, the maintenance of that bridge is funded with tolls. It's a toll bridge. And nobody's been crossing that bridge because Canada closed the border to the United States. They don't want us up there infecting their people. And that $1.5 million will cover the maintenance costs for the bridge. By the way, that $1.5 million request was submitted by Treasury Secretary Elaine Chao during the Trump administration. That's how it got into the legislation. Hannity is complaining about $500 million in aid. The military can do it. The Veterans Administration can do it. The insurance companies can do it. Hospitals can do it. But Medicare, no, you can't do that. It was just a naked attempt to, A, weaken Medicare, and B, shovel a whole bunch of cash into the coffers of the pharmaceutical companies. And here we are. The 14 Republican members of the panel have taken $36.1 million from the health sector, including $9.6 million from Big Pharma. As Marion Lynn, a spokesman for the Accountable Senate War Room, noted, while Javier Becerra has spent his career taking on the pharmaceutical industry for their corrupt price gouging, Senate Republicans have spent their political careers lining their pockets with millions of dollars from Big Pharma. And then they go through the list. Ranking member Mike Crapo has accepted $1.8 million from the health sector. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, $3.7 million. John Cornyn from Texas, $1.7 million. Richard Burr from North Carolina, all Republicans, $4.8 million. Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, $5.1 million. John Barrasso from Wyoming, $2.7 million. And, you know, you can't literally say in exchange for that, but I would say the implication is pretty obvious that in exchange for that, they said, you know, Javier Becerra should not be our HHS secretary because, you know, he does want America to pay reasonable prices for drugs instead of, you know, paying in some cases as much as 10 times what the citizens of, for example, Canada or people in the military pay for the exact same pharmaceuticals. I mean, we can't have that, can we? So we've got all these, the 14 Republican senators on the take voting no for Becerra. Nonetheless, it deadlocked the committee 14-14, and so Becerra is going to the full Senate. I can guarantee you every Republican will vote against him, but hopefully we can get him through. He's a good man. 15 minutes past the hour. I will pick up your calls after this and for the rest of the hour. Eric Swalwell, by the way, the congressman from California, has sued Donald Trump.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I will very quickly tell you why that's important on the other side of this break, and then we'll pick up your phone calls. Anything goes for it. Heidi?
Yes. Hi, Tom. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can. Yes, Heidi. Yes. Although normally when people say, can you hear me, I either hang up on them or put them on hold. But I'll cut you some slack here. What's up? Because you've been on hold for a while. What's on your mind?
Well, Amazon's on my mind. It's interesting that you mentioned Brandeis University because I'm a graduate of Brandeis University. And just as an aside, in the Jewish tradition, you know, Brandeis is a Jewish university, non-sectarian sponsored Jewish university. But anyway, in the Jewish tradition, you know, as it says in the Bible, abortion is okay until quickening occurs when the mother feels the fetus moving. But anyway, I worked at Amazon.
That was Catholic doctrine, by the way, up until the 1800s.
Oh, I didn't know that. But anyway, I worked at Amazon for 6 months to send my daughter to France. She was studying French. But anyway, it was a horror story like my grandparents experienced on the Lower East Side of New York City, you know, in the early 1900s. But yeah, some of the things that happened there is I had a mammogram which suggested cancer, so I needed to have a breast biopsy. So, you know, I gave them a note that I wasn't supposed to lift or anything for 48 hours and that I needed the time off. So I was at Amazon. What they do is they give you points towards termination if you take too much time off. and they would not excuse it. But I got hit with a cart in the back of my leg, and I was told if I went home, that would be points towards termination. But we started to organize at Amazon, and a few workers, we were trying from the inside. A few workers were, re-educated about the union. I was working with one guy who was from Pakistan, and he had gotten a green card because his wife was American. And so anyway, he'd been at Amazon for 2 years, and he was hoping to get promoted into management, but he hurt himself on the job. There are signs all over about safety, so it looks good, but you have to move so fast you really can't follow those safety signals, because if you don't move fast enough, then you're terminated. But anyway, so he was threatened. Well, first of all, he really hurt himself, so he got some medical care through Amazon workers' comp claim. And so then he was demoted. And then when we were talking from the inside about unionization, they threatened him with deportation because he was getting a divorce from his American wife. So, those were some of the tactics. Yeah, those were some of the tactics from the inside of Amazon. And a few years ago, I tried to call you about, what happened at Amazon. I don't mean this to be accusatory. I'm just trying to understand. I called you about it, and you hung up immediately, like it was like some legal liability or something. And I wonder how things have changed.
No, the only time I would ever hang up on somebody like that is if I thought that they were going to, say something racist or something obscene or whatever like that. I have no idea what happened, Heidi, that day. I'm very sorry. But thank you for sharing your story. There are some compelling stories, and that's why they're trying to unionize down in Alabama. Heidi, thank you. We'll be right back. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. So David Perry over at medium.com put together a list of 38 reasons to investigate the Trump administration. Everything from the Russian influence over the 2016 election to the Trump family's collusion with Russia to Ivanka Trump's trademarks to federal spending at Trump properties to the civilians killed by Trump's drone strikes to the Trump administration's role in turning the United States into the global epicenter for the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, we are. Yes, it's grim. Their decision to sideline the CDC, politicizing mask wearing just to try to get himself reelected, the number of people who died because the White House kept PPE from blue states, from Democratic-led states, the contents of the Trump documents that Trump refused to release to the House Judiciary Committee and other committees, all the people who wouldn't speak, at all, ignoring subpoenas, violations of the Hatch Act, the deportation of COVID-positive immigrant families, illegal altering of records. Anyhow, there's a whole list. It's over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 21 minutes past the hour. Just very quickly, Eric Swalwell is suing Donald Trump for violating civil rights with this January 6th incitement. I think he's got a strong case, but it's not the lawsuit that's if there's any damages or any recovery or any, consequence of the lawsuit, that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that this lawsuit, if the court doesn't reject it, will allow them to engage in discovery. It'll allow them to force the release of internal correspondence and communication with Trump and his advisors and people around him that might show how deeply embedded he was in this conspiracy that led to the death of 5 people, including a police officer, and, $35 million at least dollars worth of damage to the Capitol building, and, the attempt to destroy American democracy. So that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Anyhow, Kevin in Durham, North Carolina. Hey, Kevin, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. You kind of stole my thunder with Greg Palast earlier because I was going to talk about how the right is freaking out over cancel culture. They're not freaking out over 500,000 dead from COVID. They're freaking out about Dr. Seuss. But I was going to say, watching all of this week, I was going to say, you know what? People ought to start pushing back and saying, you know what real cancel culture is? What's going on in Georgia and all these state legislatures with trying to make it harder for people to vote.
Trying to cancel your vote.
Culture is storming the Capitol and trying to stop the certification of an election, trying to steal an election, calling a Secretary of State and pressuring him to manufacture votes, find votes, quote unquote, to steal an election and disenfranchise our voice. I mean, that's the real cancel culture. So I think
not to mention
back on that and say,
go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, the Dr. Seuss thing, everything else, those are companies making decisions, business decisions, and I thought they were all about the free market.
Yeah, in theory, right. And I think the point that you made that really hit me, and I thought that just an absolutely brilliant point, is that the real cancel culture is they've canceled 500,000 lives, 520,000 lives. The intentional decisions that Trump made and that are now being replicated by Greg Abbott and the governor of Mississippi, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, that they're going to cancel lives. People are going to die as a result of those decisions, and 520,000 Americans have died, have been canceled. Their lives have been canceled. Their families have been, they've been canceled out of these families' lives. And out of their Christmas parties or their holiday get-togethers or their next birthday party, all those things have been canceled so that Donald Trump could try and get himself reelected because he thought if he could just, hold the virus off for a long enough time so that everything, to keep the stock market up, he'd get reelection. I mean, it's just insane. Kevin, you said it very, very well, and thank you for that. 500,000 canceled, that's a great one. I appreciate it. Charles in Hollywood, Hollywood, Florida, actually. Charles, what's up?
I'm good. How you doing, Tom?
Good.
Okay. I'm calling in today because the two governors, and that's the first one is Abbott in Texas, and then my Governor Satanic. But I would like to start off with Abbott first. Just to hear him, criticizing the Biden administration that it's a lie that they let all these people out that had COVID that came through the immigration system. I just got to think, why then would he turn around if all of these people are loose in there and being loose in different communities in Texas? Why then would you open up and also require that you don't wear masks? Then you're exposing Texans.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, his internal logic is incoherent.
Right. So you're exposing people now, and the weather is such that I'm sure it's easier to spread germs or a cold because it's so cold right now. The inclement, the weather itself. And I'm just thinking it's one or two things, and it's sickening in my head. It's either he wants to make the rise of COVID infections go up again to make the Biden administration look bad, to halt us in our progress, or it's something even sicker than that. I don't know, because he's in a wheelchair, he doesn't feel like he really care about anybody else but himself. You would think someone like that would be sympathetic to people and their needs. But everything that he's doing is showing that he doesn't have a heart. Or I don't know if it's because he hang around those other Republicans that he has to also show how mean and nasty he can be. And this,
I think it's that. I don't think the wheelchair has anything to do with it, Charles. It's in fact, I had expected that might give him some compassion for other people. Apparently, it didn't.
But so I'm just wondering, is there something inside of his head? And then second of all, I'm dealing with Governor Satanic over here, who is
DeSantis.
Yeah, DeSantis. What he's doing is he is giving vaccines to people that got money first, knowing that so many Floridians have died, and he's also covered it up. All the deaths here.
No, this is making national news, Charles. You're absolutely right. He's taking vaccines intended for the general population and just giving them to wealthy white communities that are huge donors to his campaign. It's sick. Charles, thank you for the call. Spot on. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
More of your calls on Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the water cooler wars. Hey, a couple more months, we'll be back to the water coolers, right? Hey, it's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. We are, on an ongoing basis here. It's Friday, and we could use your help. Free Speech TV could use your help. And by the way, special bonus, whatever you give today will be doubled up to $10,000. A special group of Free Speech TV frontline funders, including Suzanne in Virginia, Ron and Becca in Florida, John and Jean in Oregon, Bill and Jane in North Carolina, Mark in Florida, Pat in Colorado, Brenda in Texas, Steve in Virginia, Mac in Colorado, and June in Oregon in memory of Ed, have put up the money, this $10,000 match, so that your gift gets doubled when you call now, 877-378-8669. Call now and your gift will become twice as big. And that's a big deal, right? Today only. So please, call now. Make this happen. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack. Hey, the world needs more wildflowers, right? I mean, seriously. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag. With a $75 gift, there's the official Thom Hartmann Program mug or the Free Speech TV hat. With a $100 gift, you get a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks. Can't have enough face masks, right? And even now they're saying, hey, with all these variants and things, it's time to double mask. So you put kind of a surgical mask on first, and then you put the Free Speech TV mask over that, and you've double masked, and you are a walking billboard. It's a good thing. With a $120 gift, there you have a choice of 3 different options. One is the Grow Social Change box, which is the Wildflower Seed Pack, the same as, in the $20 gift, plus the Windowsill Herb Garden. Always nice to grow your own herbs, right? Fresh spices and edibles. The new tote bag, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, and Free Speech TV brand sunglasses. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or, with a $120 gift, you can get the Hidden History of American Oligarchy book, my most recent book, autographed by the author. With a $240 gift, you can participate in one of our meet and greets, our virtual meet and greets. And we have dates for April and May. And I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me right now, but we do have those dates. Or the $240 book set of my 2 books, my 2 most recent books, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which are kind of 2 sides of one large problem that we have in America. Monopolies is too much economic power concentrated in a small number of hands, and oligarchy is too much political power concentrated in a small number of hands. And so both those books with a $240 gift, both of them autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the wildflower seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the Free Speech TV hat, the Free Speech TV sunglasses, and the autographed copy of The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. And with a $1,000 gift, we have the in-person meet and greet, which we hope to resume this fall. I'm guessing we will. We still haven't gotten our shots here in Oregon, but we're working on it. And so that's where we're going. But all of these things are available when you call 877-378-8669. And while, all of that was kind of a plug for one-time gifts, let me add, one of the most important things that you can do is make a sustaining gift, is to become a member of the Sustainers Circle or the group of people who are really establishing the floor for Free Speech TV, so that Free Speech TV can budget out in advance and know what kind of revenue is coming in. And you just give them your credit card once and tell them how much to take out each month, and they'll do that until you tell them to stop, or for whatever period of time you want to set up. And it's real easy. You just call 877-378-8669, just as if you were making a one-time gift, or even in addition to a one-time gift. And you can say, oh, and by the way, in addition to, sending me the wildflower seed pack, you know, ding my card for an extra X dollars for an extra X months, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, if you are a fan of independent media, if you are a fan of this program, if we're doing a good job here in meeting your needs for information, conversation, all those things, help out, please. Call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you, as they say. And there isn't enough media in the United States like Free Speech TV, which brings me to my final point, which is Free Speech TV needs publicists. And right now that's not in the budget, but you can be a publicist for Free Speech TV. And wouldn't that be a cool thing if everybody watching right now, or even if a small percentage of people watching right now, were to start talking about Free Speech TV on social media, start talking about free speech on Twitter. You want to get me to like one of your tweets? Plug Free Speech TV, you know, with a specific link that people can follow so that they can learn about Free Speech TV. And if I see those links on Twitter, now I'm not sitting there all the time, but if I see them, I'll like them. So anyhow, call now, help us out, and please participate. Thanks. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, yeah, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. So John Kasich was recently on CNN talking about how Democrats need to be listening to rural America, words to that effect. No, I think Democrats need to be talking to rural America and reminding rural America that it was a Democratic president that got them Social Security. It was a Democratic president that brought electricity to rural America, the RTA through, or the REA rather through the Franklin Roosevelt administration. It was the Democratic Party who brought phones to rural America. It was the Democratic Party that brought Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and public education to rural America, subsidized all those things. Democrats don't need to be listening to rural America. They need to be talking to rural America. There's over 1,500 right-wing radio stations in rural America talking smack all the time, 24/7, and none in rural America carrying a progressive message. That's what Democrats need to be paying attention to. You can check out our new video on this over at ThomHartmann.com. So the Republicans are all hysterical about Mr. Potato Head, but you don't hear them talking about Bob Brockman. Bob Brockman, it turns out, is one of the largest donors to the Republican Party in general. And he also has just been charged with running the largest tax fraud in the history of America. $2 billion. He ripped off you and me. It's alleged. I mean, he has not been convicted. So let's assume innocence, but he is alleged to have ripped off the United States government to the tune of $2 billion, this $2 billion tax fraud scheme. Mind-boggling. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Anyhow, picking up your phone calls here, Rob in Mesa, Arizona. Rob, what's on your mind today?
Hey, just real quick, I think the problem with the Republicans is they're confusing the word cancel with consequences. You know, it's a consequence that Mr. Potato Head went from 2 boxes to 1 box. It's good for inventory. It's a consequence that, they're eliminating 5 books that I've never heard of. I don't own any of those books. So I think they're low sellers in the first place, and then to boot, they got the content. So that's a consequence. That's a business consequence. The other thing I'd like to say is, to your credit, while I was on hold, I did contact Kristen Sinema, who is my senator here in Arizona, and basically told her what you just said at the beginning of the hour. Hey, you want to support the filibuster? Then introduce legislation to change it back. Otherwise, get rid of it, and some other details. So thank you for that. Man,
let's have a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington filibuster. I'm calling it the Jimmy Stewart filibuster. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem if Republicans want to stand on the floor of the Senate and talk until they're blue in the face, as long as at least 40 Republicans have to physically be there during the entire period, and somebody has to keep talking. And let them do it for a day or so, and let them go on and on and on about how terrible it is to help Americans with their unemployment benefits, or how terrible it is to help local towns and counties pay for their police and fire, or how terrible it is that we'd be making small businesses whole. Let them do it. Fine. But this idea right now that Ted Cruz can filibuster a bill by simply sending an email into the Senate saying, I object. And then all of a sudden the Democrats have to gather 60 votes. That's crazy.
Right. Hey, I would like to also say something about the free market power in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's showing you where the Republicans are with their legislation. You ask what they've done for the middle class. Well, what they do all the time is just like they're against single-payer system. They think it's okay for you to go bankrupt and lose your house over a medical condition. Well, they're doing the same thing in Texas with the power. That $9,000 limit, that was built in. So it went from $18 a kilowatt hour to $9,000 built in. They know they're going to have hurricanes and tornadoes. They probably thought it was going to be on a smaller scale. So they're basically saying that our legislation, Republican legislation, now thinks it's okay during a hurricane or whatever happens, you can go bankrupt and lose your house again. It almost seems like what they consider free market is laws that are free to screw you market. So they pass laws that
I call it gangster capitalism.
They're basically trying to make their theft legal. So most of their legislation is around this free market. And then they go and say, oh, well, gosh, we charged $1.8 billion, even though we should charge $180 million, but now we want the government to bail us out. That's not free market. Go bankrupt.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. Well said, Rob. Some great memes in there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Nancy in Woodland, California. Hey, Nancy, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I just wanted to get your take on this idea that's being proposed by the governor of Nevada. It seems really bad to me about proposing legislation to let big tech companies set up their own innovation cities. They'd be owning everything, the government, the healthcare, power system, everything. And the governor said that the pandemic has hurt the economy so much that this idea will help improve the economy. I mean, I thought we were done with company towns. It just seemed like a really bad idea to me.
Yeah. I read that article in the Financial Times a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, that's interesting. There were some stipulations. It had to be on land that wasn't being otherwise used, and way out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And they had to build their own infrastructure, and they had to do it to certain standards, et cetera, et cetera. But on the one hand, there's part of me that says, hey, this is the United States, and if people want to get together and buy some land and do something with it, whether it's creating a hippie commune or a company town, God bless them. And then on the other hand, and in fact, it might be a real interesting experiment. And on the other hand, thinking, there are going to be people living there who are living there simply because they're employees of this company. And I guess in theory you can move, but if the company starts treating you poorly or the company town goes south, I'm not, Nancy, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still processing that one. I get your objection to company town. I mean, you can go back to what was the town where the Pullman Porter, where Pullman was the town named Pullman? It wasn't, was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, there have been a couple of them, where they've literally tried to set up towns that, that are owned and they own the businesses and everything else.
That's always the image I've had. It's had a negative image to me, and that's why I was kind of like you. I was kind of torn, but immediately my thought was that it was real negative. It was very concerning to me.
Yeah, I was also wondering if he was throwing a bone to Elon Musk or somebody like that, or hoping that they would leap at that. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on this, and we've you and I in this conversation just put it out in front of a whole lot of people, and maybe somebody can educate us as to what the specific upside or downside would be, because I'm not a city planner. I'm just viewing this with without a great deal of sophistication in terms of understanding how towns get put together and what the consequences of that would be. It's not something that the history of which I've ever really dug into. So you've got me scratching my head on this. Nancy, thank you for the call. Sure. I appreciate it. And thanks for, thank you. And thank you for thinking about that. Jeff in El Dorado, California. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Big fan here. Podcast subscriber. You often talk about it, and I agree that we need more progressive voices out there to present an alternative to the right-wing echo chamber. And instead of waiting for a wealthy progressive to do it, we can create a fund to acquire media outlets. It'd be something like a co-op. So when you invest your money in it, you become part owner, and the value could grow over time. The stations could sell advertising in order to grow the fund and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of money out there in small dollar increments. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that that's something that might take off if it had a real, kind of high-profile evangelist for it. I'm up to my eyeballs in yeah. Well, see, between doing this radio show and trying to write 2 books a year, I'm buried. And that would become a full-time job. Raising the money, organizing, and keeping it, doing it right.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm sure there are capable people you may know that could put it together, but promoting it would be relatively simple, I think.
Yeah, if you had a large enough base, I would, as a starting point, I would like to see the progressive media that's already out there do a better job of promoting themselves. And getting their names out. The Pacifica radio stations, Free Speech TV. Particularly the nonprofits, the for-profit radio stations, and Sirius XM that I'm on do a pretty good job of letting people know what they're all about and what they're doing. But the nonprofits very often kind of have this inward-looking, internal mentality that causes them to end up being little silos that nobody knows anything about and people haven't heard about. And so, I'm encouraging during fund drives when I voice the fundraiser for KPFK, for example, which I just did in Los Angeles, or any of our Pacifica stations. I'm more than happy to do fundraisers for them, and I do for Free Speech TV every time they do their fundraisers also. I always suggest that people become evangelists for the station or for the network, as the case may be, because a lot of these stations just don't have a budget for PR or an inclination, or they don't understand it. They don't think of it in business terms, and I'm an old business guy, and so, but that's what I've been doing. I mean, I know there is one guy in New York that I've been talking to who, as a result of the article that I published in The Nation a few months ago, has been trying to pull together some money from some billionaires, but so far nothing has popped on that. So we'll see where it all goes. Jeff, thank you for the call, and thanks for the suggestion. Maybe somebody listening will pick it up and run with it. Wouldn't that be nice? It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls and more of the news of the day right after this on Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Fair and only slightly unbalanced.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the end of the week, and we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. And welcome back. Let's see here. Rich in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hey, Rich, what's on your mind today?
Good afternoon, Tom. Thank you very much. I'd like to talk about how I really smell a smear going on for Governor Cuomo in New York, but I'd also like to offer to a previous caller's concerns about mood and self-destruction that the thyroid is this pivotal portion of ourselves that if it's low functioning, if it's a hypothyroid, your mood gets destroyed. And it's the easiest thing to have it misdiagnosed, believe it or not. I was told, you've
seen this in
got
my own
fine
family.
numbers. You've got fine numbers there. You're fine. And yet I had all these other symptoms that were completely dismissed. And I started taking care of myself with extra iodine. And all of a sudden I was, Hercules. It was pretty cool.
and iodine, I mean, iodine is an essential nutrient for humans, and these thyroid disorders, Synthroid is the most widely prescribed drug in the United States, prescription drug.
But it don't work. It don't work. You need your liver enzymes to be able to make Synthroid work, and most folks are low on their liver function.
Yeah, and one of the more common incidents of this is in women who have had children. And I'm guessing, this is just my personal theory, that producing a baby takes, because babies need iodine too for their little thyroids, that drains it out of your body. And if you're not eating, if you're not eating fish, or you're not eating a lot of seafood, kelp, dulse is spectacular stuff. You put a half a teaspoon of dulse, it's a red powdered seaweed, put a half a teaspoon of dulse into a cup of coffee, and you do that every morning, and you will be full of pep and vim and vigor like you just never imagined.
Yeah. I'm actually a big proponent for a Lugol solution, which is super easy to use. It's for the name of the 1700s French biologist, Lugol, Lugol, apostrophe S. So check that out. That's super easy to use. But
is that the iodine you put on your skin?
Well, I got a secret to tell you, sir. You can use it orally too. You put it. I use this stuff called Calm, which is a magnesium supplement, and I mix that, and it's because magnesium is a cofactor to the iodine. And I mix that up as the drink, and then I put 7 drops of my 2% in, and that's first thing in the morning, and I'm good to go. So it's super simple, and we don't have it in our diet in ways because of the way agriculture is practiced, and where it was the additive in fortified salt. People don't use salt because they're afraid of hypertension.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, the goiter epidemic is why we got iodized salt to begin with. With regard to Governor Cuomo, I don't know if he's being smeared or not. I do know that he's a bully. I mean, everybody he brags about that.
He makes things happen. He made tough decisions. Fox is up to its hips in criticizing him, and that tells me that there's a stink. So,
yeah, or they're just being opportunists, one or the other. I think time will tell here.
Absolutely, you know it.
Yeah. Rich, I got to run. Thanks. On the Science Revolution this week, Nick Dearden is here with Global Justice Now. Should America have a people's vaccine? Nick is calling for an immediate suspension of patents on COVID-19 vaccines and an international plan to ramp up production as rapidly as possible. Barry C. Lynn from Open Markets Institute drops by on how monopolies have created a crisis in the food industries. Zach Corrigan is here from Food and Water Justice on how pork slaughter plants with self-inspection rules are not working well and endangering our health. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Anything Goes Friday. Sandra in Omaha, Nebraska. Hey, Sandra, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I was just wanted to comment on the guy who's kind of worried about his son who didn't see any hope for the future. And as a comparison, my dad was born 5 months before the end of World War I. He grew up in about the worst time that you could ever imagine. And when he was 7, his dad just finally decided, I can't take this anymore. And so he walked out on 4 kids and his wife and just disappeared. The Great Depression came along. Then World War II came along. Then the Korean War came along. And in World War II, my dad lost his hearing because of a bomb that went off. And so any job that might require using a telephone, that was out. So he had a lot of ups and downs in his life, but he still managed to make a good life. He had a good family. He found ways to enjoy life. He took up painting as he got older because TV was kind of out. There was always a laugh track going, and there was people that weren't facing the camera when they were talking, and he couldn't read their lips. So, I would just wanted to say that you might think that things are very black and very bleak, and this is all brand new. It's never been like this before, but it has. And if you can try to focus more closely on things that you can do in your life and in your family to make things better, maybe for someone else in your family, or makes things better for you, even in the short term, it can make a difference. And
that enhances your sense of agency.
I'm sorry?
That enhances your helping out other people, doing things for other people, doing things that you might call service or even good deeds. It causes, it enhances what's called your sense of agency, your feeling of power, essentially, of personal power, of ability.
Exactly.
And that's a very therapeutic thing, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, it can take your mind off of your worries, and you can see, well, there's other people that have things too that they're dealing with, and I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in this. And I think it's the loneliness. You feel like you're all alone, and you're not.
Well, and for kids also, they've got the challenge of social media. You just never know. If you've got a kid who's going through some real crisis, it may well be that they're the victims of online bullies, or they've dropped into, fallen into some sort of online cult. I mean, there are so many predators out there and bullies and whatnot, and they're in. I mean, it used to be that the bully that I grew up with lived down the street from me. His name was Dennis, and he beat me up a couple of times a year on the way to school. Now the bully is right in your bedroom on your phone or on your pad. Trashing you in front of your peers. So it's a whole different time to be parenting. Sandra, I got to move along, but thank you. Great suggestions
too.
all.
Yeah, all right.
Sandra, thank you. Good talking with you. Eric in Erie, Pennsylvania. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Way to end the week. I just want to pick up the ball where you left off with Swalwell's lawsuit and the value of discovery itself. It really is, in so many cases, particularly for those of us who sue as activists, it's the more valuable thing than the damages. You can claim $1 in damages. I personally represented myself in a case that I had to go through a probation department to access a drug testing laboratory, and I got the emails that went between those two parties about me and my specimen. And I was able to, with the laboratory as my defendant, I was able to simultaneously reveal this major corrupt misconduct by this probation department, who was emailing with the lab, acknowledging that the specimen no longer existed, and therefore the case could never go to trial. But they kept prosecuting me month after month after month after month, and I knew it at the time in my gut. So I fought. I kept fighting. I would never plead to it. Years later in civil discovery, boom, I proved it. And it was earth-shattering, the stuff I found out and learned by staying with the civil process and getting discovery and other documents.
And hopefully Eric Swalwell will be able to do that. Eric, thank you for sharing that with us. It's a good one. Steve in Lexington Park, Maryland. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. Just to let you know, for 31 years, I taught children's literature on the elementary level, and when they came out with the Dr. Seuss list, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, when I heard that, I was kind of disappointed, because that was one of my favorite books to read aloud to the kids. But what I'm calling about, we can use this now as a teaching moment where we can now compare the illustrations back, and this was 1937 when that book was published, and it was his first book of original story that was published under Dr. Seuss. And we can use it as a teachable moment to compare the stories of that era to the illustrations of today. And I can see doing it on the elementary level too. And just to let you know, Dr. Dolittle is a very racist book. If you ever get a chance to read that book, that's extremely racist book. And also, I'm going to end by saying I've read all your books from the Free Speech TV catalog.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you. And thanks for the perspective. I think it is a teaching moment, too. And that's great. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Joyce the Hammer, Nance, Nigel Peacock, Sue Netherkitz, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jabbermaki, and Jay LeBlanc, the folks who help bring you this program, who work on this program. And thank you to you for your help and for calling in and for listening and for sharing the good word with other people. I hope you have a wonderful, safe weekend, and be sure to spread the good word out there about democracy. Tag you're it. Be good, be safe. We'll see you Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.